But there's a lot there.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. So did any of you all, when you certified in any more tax rate cities?
No,
That was
I
something
talked
I
with
was
her.
gonna do, I was like, when I was there.
Right, well, see, I talked with him a while back.
I've been doing a lot of research
And
and stuff.
and wanted to look
There's
into
this company called Virtual Diamond Concepts where they partner with celebrities.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning for our first Entrepreneur Express workshop program, or the revamped version. It's hard to believe this is a program that started in 2016 in Southwest Virginia, and within 6 months it became a statewide initiative. And what it is simply that we all are coming together, and the folks that can help you start and grow businesses come together and help you learn about resources and opportunities in Virginia to help you launch and grow those businesses. My name is Sandy Ratliff. I'm with Virginia Community Capital, and you'll learn more about us, but I just want to let you all know this is a pretty big day for me. This is my first in-person workshop for almost 3 years, but for the last year I've been battling cancer. So this is my first time out. I put my big girl clothes on and come out, so I might be a little teary-eyed, but this is my big day. And I have hair, so, and that's why I'm still wearing a mask, doctor's orders. But thank you for coming out, and I really appreciate the Bristol Chamber folks had their big breakfast this morning that they do every month, so they're not here, but I know and I appreciate them for hosting this. You know, they do a lot to support small business in the region, and just having them host our first one means a whole lot as well. Just kind of, everybody should have a copy of the agenda, but before we get started, you know who I am now. How about we go around the room, introduce ourselves, tell us what your plans are if you're looking at starting, or if you have an existing business, tell us all about it. But we want to learn about you because you're going to learn a lot about us today. So I'll just start here.
My name is Ludmila Porter, originally from Ukraine, and I'm hoping to open a tea room, yes, in Bristol, and we bring like the tea experience
Great.
to, our folks here.
Well, I'm glad that hopefully we can give you some tips today. And hi.
Hi, I'm Elisa Smith, and I'm originally from California, but lived in New York most of my life, and now I moved my whole family here, and I'm working with her with the tea room idea.
Yeah, we're
partners.
Great. What's your name?
Tell what your name is.
Ah,
That's Miss Olivia.
okay.
My name is Kim Moretz, and I do not have an existing business. I came here to learn some information, and I want to know about some grants to help us get started. We want to do something in the farming aspect. So
Great.
we raise cattle now, and we raise them and beef them and sell them and stuff like that. So we want to do
And
something.
I eat beef.
We want to
a
do
lot.
something along those lines.
Good, great. Hey, Mike, tell folks who you are.
Mike Price, I work with the Small Business Development Center doing marketing, as a marketing consultant.
Great. And Mike just won the Washington County Business Challenge. We just did those awards 2 weeks ago, and he won an award there for his startup business. So, see, it all goes around. Sir.
So I'm Paul O'Quinn. I'm from over in Dickinson County, but recently moved back. Been away for 35 years, lived in Roanoke, lived in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, most recently Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just had a strong desire to come back to the area I grew up in and figure out what can I do to have an impact on the community there. I am currently in the process of forming a nonprofit with a higher mission of improving the standard of living, but two primary ways to contribute to that: economic indicators and public health indicators. So there's that, but then also additionally, I'm looking into a for-profit business for food manufacturing.
Great.
Yeah.
Good to have you. I guess you get the Travel the Farthest award today,
Maybe.
this morning? Okay, thank you.
About an hour and a half.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I am Jackie Knopflin, and I'm looking to open my business after 36 years of doing hair and knowing hair.
And I have hair now.
And you have hair now, and you look beautiful.
Thank you.
And that's what it does. It helps us to increase our way we feel about ourselves. And my motto is, you feel good, you look good. You look good, you feel good.
I totally agree.
One of the things I would share with you is I've been in management for quite a long time. We can go back as far as 38 years with military travels as a dependent. And I own, manage my own PX store. So that's a lot of military, and I took care of the military women as far as their beauty was concerned as well. But I grew that store and doubled it before I left and left my plan there. And when I got to, this is short, when I got to back home, we settled back in Bristol. I was never coming back to Bristol, but we settled back here to Bristol, and I started working, and I lost my hair. I fell into some acetone at Westinghouse, and I lost my hair. And then another accident, I took a chunk was taken out of my, but at any rate, I needed to do something about that because I was feeling very discouraged about myself. And so I've been doing hair, and what I would do is I travel to Winston-Salem, Knoxville, and different places, and bring hair in as other women were ordering it, noticing that I have looked different or changed. Where did you get that? And so that's how I came about this business, and I've been doing it in and out of my home or in someone else's home. And lately, I haven't been accessible, so we have a meeting spot. And sometimes we just get together and just do makeup, accessories, and hair.
Great. Well, good to have you.
My other spot is I'm trying to get it Shanghai, and that's where I have an open lease at right now. That's it, Shanghai.
Great. Well, this makes me feel good with all the new startups. That's what we need all around Southwest Virginia. You know, that's the cornerstone of the economy, is through entrepreneurs starting, seeing a need in a community and starting a business. And whoever thought we would spend $12 for a cup of coffee that's got a little cream and sugar in it, but we do. So, you know, it's good to have you, but let's go around the room for the team, because this is a partnership to do this program. So, Cindy, I'm going to start over there with you, and you introduce yourself.
Good morning, I'm Cindy Fields. I'm the director with the Small Business Development Center, Virginia Highlands Community College. I feel like I know most everybody here, but we work with Bristol, Washington County, and Smith County.
I'm Billy Roberts. I work with Sandy at BCC. I'm a Community Innovation Advisor. My background is in local government. I've worked in community and economic development for 7 or 8 years now, but I recognize a lot of you from when I came down to the Believe in Bristol presentation. So I know you guys just had your pitch night last night, right?
Oh, yes.
So an early morning for you guys. Thanks for being here.
Oh, yes.
Good job. Becky.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Becky Nave, and I work for Virginia Tourism as a Senior Development Specialist. You all have heard, I'm sure, the Virginia Flubber brand, and I won't go into a lot of detail because I'm going to share a presentation with you all in a few minutes, but I serve the Southwest Virginia region, so Roanoke all the way to Lee County, so a big area. So a lot of you all, and as we met Paul, and he mentioned Dickinson County, I was like, yep, just spent the whole day there yesterday as well, and then Marion last night. So happy to be here and meet you all, and look forward to learning more about your businesses and or maybe your dreams of what you want to do with starting a business, and then maybe ways that we can help.
Great. So I want to just quickly go over what we're going to. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeremy. Hey, Becky.
I'm not giving any slide.
Can you check the clicker?
Becky, we got it.
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
That's okay.
I was,
You're not getting
chemo
mine.
brain, I'm still not hitting all cylinders.
I blend back here, that's what it is. So I'm Jeremy Repass. I'm a senior business lender with People Incorporated out of Having. You'll probably be seeing me or Shane Simmons in different aspects in different places, but Yeah, so I'm here today, I'm gonna speak with you a little bit about some financial resources and so forth. Don't have a whole lot of in-depth information as far as the grants and stuff that are out there, but I can speak to what People Incorporated is administering right now and kind of give some idea on some opportunities we have for some financial assistance.
Great, thank you. So today, or this morning, we've got a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but hopefully by the time you get out of here, you're going to know who to call, what resources are available, and so much more. But what we're going to talk about is, we're starting out, Cindy Fields will talk about how you go about starting and growing a business, some of the primary things that you need, which I'm sure if you've been going through the challenge, you know a lot of that, but I'm sure there's some things that you're going to be learning as new as well. Then we're going to talk about marketing. It's not build it and they will come. That's a very important part of any business, because people have to know what you do, that you're here, how to find you, and so much more. So Becky Nave with the Virginia Tourism Corporation is going to cover that. And then money. Where's the money? You've got to have that. And Jeremy Repass with People Incorporated is going to talk about what resources are available in Southwest Virginia, because we do have some resources that are not always available in other parts of the Commonwealth, so we'll share that as well. And we know the importance of technology, and especially cybersecurity. I hope you're not planning to keep your books in a shoebox, because that's not the way to do it, but you need to keep up with your customers and what's going on. But there's also things that you need to do to protect yourself online. So we've got Jonathan Eveden with Aegis Technology. He couldn't be here in person, but he videoed a presentation to give you some tips on what you need to do to prepare, and also some resources that you could use. We appreciate that. And then I'm going to follow and talk about other resources that were not covered. There's so much available in Virginia that can help you, as well as what Virginia Community Capital has to offer. It's not regular that you see a lending institution that is going out into communities and helping businesses get started and expand, and that shows the commitment that they have to Virginia's small business community and the communities at large. And I've been working in economic development for over 30 years, so usually if I don't know the answer, I know who to call. So we'll talk about other resources that can help you. And then, of course, only thing that we can do is to answer those questions. So if you have a question either during, or we'll have some time at the end to just kind of have a QA. And we're a small amount of people, so let's be frank and chat about this. And hopefully that everything that you want to know is going to be answered at the end. We do have, everybody should have an agenda. You've got 2 QR codes on that. One is you can download the, we want to hear from you to see who you are, how did we do, but most importantly, what can we do to help you after this workshop, that maybe there wasn't an answer to your question. You can scan that QR code and go there, or I've got those in paper format too, that we can go around and get that. So we want to hear from you. And then the other QR code on the right of your agenda is the PowerPoint. So we didn't print all of that because there's a lot of slides that we're going to handle in 3 hours. So you can scan that QR code and you've got everything that we talk about today at your fingertips. So with all of that, I am going to turn it over to Cindy Fields with the Small Business Development Center.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I feel like I saw you all just a few hours ago, some of you. So we're going to talk about, whoops, I went the wrong way, Sandy. We're going to talk about a smart start. And I don't like to just get up and talk, so I like for us to interact with one another. Some of you know that. And I know that a lot of you all have already been through some of these sessions, so some of this will be a bit repetitive, but hopefully you will get some new ideas today, especially from some of the other partners that we're going to work with. But the biggest thing I want you to take away from today, from my presentation, is the importance of having a plan. And that is true if you are starting a business or if you are trying to grow your business. Now, the small business development centers are funded in part through the Small Business Administration and the localities that we serve. So I serve Washington County, Bristol, and Smith County and work with those businesses. Our state office is in Fairfax. It is on the campus of George Mason University. And we have 28 centers throughout the state of Virginia. So the nice thing about working with an SBDC is that we have thousands and thousands of businesses that we have worked with. So we have resources to pull from. It's very rare that I find a business that has an idea that I can't find some other business in our network should we need to bring them in and pull some other resources in. Some of those will be glad to act, as a mentor, talk to you, answer questions. And it's great for those that really kind of want some information on the business that they're thinking about starting, but maybe there's a competitor in the area and, you're not going to go to your competitor and ask them, hey, tell me all your secrets because I want to be your competition. But so let me ask you, when you start a business or when you've thought about starting a business, what was the one thing that created that thought?
Desire.
Desire. Very good. What else?
For me, it was, I see a need.
A need. Okay.
For me, it's just to make your idea come true.
Okay. Anybody else? So you've hit on several of the things. For many entrepreneurs, they are answering a call to have a solution to a problem. For others, it is desire or passion for something that they really like to do. For others, it's an idea for something. And, the tea room idea is, they've had that before. It's not here. So they're really, they enjoyed their experience.
Yeah.
But also they saw that there was a need for that here. So that's really how you get started in deciding that you want to have a business of your own. Now, let me ask, and Kim, right? Okay, Kim, why do you want to start something different?
Because we, like I said, we raised beef just on a small scale, and we raised it, we've had it processed and sold it, and we have more demand than we can do what we're doing right now.
Okay.
We can sell more of it than we can actually produce, and me and my son both work full time. This is me and my son,
Okay.
and he's a long distance truck driver right now.
Okay.
So he, this is something that we would like to see if there's an option,
So
to do
you're
this.
seeing a need, there's a shortage, and you're looking to try to expand what you're already doing.
Be a better product than what's out there now. So.
Okay, great. So the next step is to have a plan. And like I said, that's the biggest thing from my presentation that I want you all to take away from today. Now, I'm not going to go through every section of the business plan. We're not going to do that today. I want us to stay on track, get back on track. And when we finish here, if you aren't already working with me, then call me or email me, because then we will start with our first session in which we will go through every section of the business plan and we will work on developing that. Because you're going to need that for a lot of different reasons. I always tell the story that for many years I worked in for many different corporations. My last full-time job, when I was not working for myself, I worked for a company and we made hoists, And I found myself presenting to Wall Street and presenting our budget and trying to convince the members of Wall Street, what our stock prices should be. So when you are working for somebody else, you find, especially today, you find that every minute you are getting several emails, you're getting phone calls, you've got people walking into your office. They are always telling you what you should be doing or asking you for something. And so when I left the corporate world and I walked into our family's business, I found all of a sudden that there was no one really telling me what to do all the time. I was the business owner, I was the manager, and I had to keep everybody going, and I had to keep things on track. So a lot of people say, well, I want to go in business for myself because I want that flexibility. That is a double-edged sword statement right there. But even if you are going in business for yourself, you still need that plan to keep yourself on track. Because as a business owner, what I find is you end up getting very consumed with keeping staffing up to where it should be. And then you're trying to schedule your staff. You're trying to run the operation. You're trying to maybe manage all your finances. You're trying to do all these things, which when you worked in the corporate sector, there was a staff person who took care of all of that. And suddenly you're doing that. So it's really easy to lose track of the vision in your business and your plan for the business. And that's what's so important. But another thing is, and I know that most of y'all have mentioned this today, you know that when you start a business or when you grow a business, you usually have to have capital money to help you get to wherever it is you're going. If that's opening the shop, Jackie, or if that's expanding your agriculture business. So that's another reason to have a plan. If you go to Virginia Community Capital, or you go to People Incorporated, or you go to a bank, they want to know, well, what's your plan? You can't just walk in and say, I'm going to publish books, and I'm going to make $600,000 next year. Sure you are. Prove it to me. So you want to have that plan. And then as we talked about, execution is another reason for having that plan. So it helps you share that opportunity with others. Not only are there banks that you can get some money from, but you may find that there are some angel investors, or maybe that could be a family member, or that could be someone that you don't even know that might be interested in investing in your business. But they want to know that you know what you're doing. Most lenders want to see what you are projecting 3 to 5 years out, okay? They want to know that you can pay them back and that you're going to make some profit. I mean, why would you run a business if you can't pay yourself anything, right? So the ultimate goal is that you want to be able to have a good life from this business. And the writing process when you are developing a business plan really does help you determine, what you're going to do with that business. I tell most people that when we sit down and we start working, I generally have them work on the first 2 or 3 sections of the business plan. And then every session we go through a few more, and they have a draft. But that draft is going to go through multiple editions that they're going to revise that. Once you've been in business, probably for 6 months, you really need to go back and revise that business plan again, because you're going to find out by that point what's working and what's not. And if you stay on that track that you started on and you don't adjust for the things that are working and the things that are not, then that's probably going to lead you down a path that you don't want to go down with your business. So getting things on paper, I often tell people that when you start writing your business plan, that I encourage you just to kind of have an idea board. Take Post-it notes with you. Keep them in your purse, keep them in your book bag, your briefcase, keep them in your car. However, make sure you pull off the side of the road if you want to jot down an idea. But I've had that happen to me before, when I've been so busy with life and that I'll be driving and when you're driving, that's a really good time to think about things. And you'll have that idea. It's like, oh, that's a really great idea. And then you may forget that later. But it's great really to just kind of spend some time thinking and jot down those thoughts. Keep all of those Post-it notes until you get ready to start writing that business plan. So these are the key elements of the business plan. That's going to be your executive summary, your business description, your financial projections, and your supporting documents. Now, before we go on to business description, let me talk a little bit about the executive summary. I generally tell everybody not to write your executive summary until you've written the entire business plan first. The reason for that is think about your executive summary as being a cover letter. When you are applying for a job, do you use the same cover letter for every job you apply for? No, you don't. Because you want to highlight what your strengths are for whatever that specific job is that you're applying for. So, if you are using this business plan and you are giving it to Jeremy, the reason you're going to see Jeremy is that you need funding. If, let's say that, Kim, you wanted to take your business plan and you have been able to package at a USDA certified facility and you want to be able to be a supplier for some restaurants around here, then the letter that you would put with that business plan would be different because the intent there with that is that you want them to understand the value of your product and your service and you would like to distribute to them. So the executive summary will be something that you will write many times based on what you want to do with that business plan. Now, so one of the main parts of the business plan is your business description. It's the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the business. It's where you're telling the majority of the story, really. You're telling about your product, your service, your qualities, you're expressing your vision, your mission. You're talking about your management and organization structure. Now, this is a really important part, and I see a lot of people that don't put a lot of thought into this. The reason I think this is really important is that particularly if you are going to someone for money, let's take Jeremy for example. Jeremy may be interested in your business, but if he sees that you don't have the knowledge and the background to be able to run a successful business, that may give him some pause for concern. So in that, you want to make sure that you clearly define what your background is, what your role is, what your responsibilities will be, and that you have defined those other people that are going to work for you, okay? Kim, if you create this section and you just talk about yourself and you don't list your son or anyone else that's going to help you, and you go to a restaurant, they may say, well, I don't know. I mean, I like their product, but I'm a little bit leery about going with them as a supplier because, what if Kim gets sick and I need 100 pounds of beef on Tuesday? What's going to happen? What's the backup plan? So putting some thought into your staff and what their responsibilities are going to be. I also like for you, when you're doing that, to actually figure out how much you are going to pay an individual, how many hours they're gonna be able to work, because when it gets to the projection section, we wanna use that to be able to develop what all your projections are for your salary expenses. And we also use that really to determine, in your business, do you need to write some procedural guidelines to use with these employees so that you don't have a headache with employees down the road in terms of, disciplinary issues, or maybe you need to write something that shows what sort of benefits that you're gonna get for those employees. All that you have developed on the front end will save you a lot of headache on the back end. Then also, you want to do some market research. And this is an area that, the SBDCs will help you with. And I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. But you want to look at the industry. And, if you have 6 bakeries within a couple of miles and you're thinking about starting another bakery, that might not be a really wise idea unless you can diversify your product, okay? It sometimes comes down to looking at competition. Jackie?
Would that be like the same thing with the beer downtown, that the different tastes and I don't drink, but I've noticed that if it's a certain taste or someone created it, it generates a lot, but there's so many different, but it works downtown.
There are, and I've had several discussions, particularly relating to the Bristol area on that, because, and we've seen one major brewer that, closed at the end of the year. With that, we'd seen another one coming in. I've talked to some of the smaller brewers, and I've asked the question, in fact, I did this recently. I said, how has X company and X company coming in impacted your business? And what the owner told me was, he said, well, believe it or not, it really hasn't impacted me. And he said, it is because that with what I brew, I have a really strong following. I understand what they want, and he's looking at expanding. And he's also working and partnering with other businesses, and collaborating on different ideas. So he's doing more than just depending on people that will walk in and sit down. Some establishments have a specific environment, and so it's more than just the product. Sometimes it's the experience. So as I said, you have to look at the competition and then figure out, okay, if there's already a lot of these type businesses, can I be, different in some way?
Can I just make a quick
Sure.
comment? I think part of what you're getting at there is understanding what is the demand for what you're
Yes,
trying
it
to do.
is.
So 6 bakeries might be okay if there's a demand for 14 out there, right?
That's
You-
true.
You might have enough to be successful, but if there's 6 and those 6 are struggling to get
Right.
enough business, then you're gonna be hurting.
That's true, and it's very, Jeremy.
Oh, I was gonna say, when you were speaking to the breweries locally and so forth, because there's breweries over in St. Paul and places like that, and I don't wanna steal any time or anything, but we have a funding program called Ninth District Development, which based around tourism. Becky's real familiar with that, and I had to actually do a report for that board that showed that breweries have become a part of Virginia tourism. And the reason being is because there's that brew trail. And there's actually individuals that will, just like these ATV trails that are around here, there's individuals that will get together and go around and taste the different breweries, their specific beer that they brew.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the demand for them. There again, like Cindy was saying, you would think there wouldn't be that big of a demand for that many of them, but they all sell the same product in a different way. So it's very interesting, and oddly enough, the Ninth District Development now considers breweries a part of Virginia tourism, so those breweries that are opening up qualify for that funding because of that development that's coming out, so.
Very good point, and your all's comments lead right into this next slide. So one thing, we have 2 marketing counselors that are working with our SBDC office at Virginia Highlands. And so one thing we're really doing a lot with is we are looking at businesses' marketing. If you're a brand new business, we're really trying to help you developing that marketing strategy from the ground up so that you are doing the best you can in terms of your visibility and reaching your target market. So we're looking at and letting you, understand and develop and tell us who is your target market, So let's go back to the brewery example, and the individual that I was talking with last week, and I said, well, who is your target customer? What do they look like? It seemed that they were somewhere between 25 and 40, no particular sex, and I would jump to the other details specific that they mentioned, and that was that the environment that they created was not one that was your common sports bar theme. It was one that really fostered face-to-face communication, and that was what they were seeing, and that's why they felt like that a lot of the other establishments that came in had not impacted them. So that's just an example of some of the things we really work with you on. Business to business. So if, let's say, Kim, in your business, you want to distribute, you want to increase your distribution. So not just to the end consumer, but you want to distribute to restaurants, So then we start looking at, okay, well, let's figure out all of the different possibilities out here and who you could market to. Would it make sense for you to try to market to a Texas Roadhouse? No, probably not. Because Texas Roadhouses, even though I love them, but they're a corporate entity. They have corporate accounts. You can't compete with that. But so we say, oh, well, you're looking for those smaller, privately owned businesses, those that are focused on quality beef products. Is she going to sell to a Mexican restaurant? Probably not. Unless it's a really high-end Mexican restaurant. So we look at all of those kinds of things, and all that's important that you understand all that as you are developing your business plan. These are all of the resources that we use. Our state office has a lot of subscriptions for different market analytical resources that we use. We obviously use a lot of information with that VTC is able to help us with, and different state type products. So we use a lot of that and have access to that. SBDC is a free service, so that is, it's really your tax dollars at work, because our funding is coming from federal funds in part. Financial projections, that's another really important part, and I'm just going to go through this quickly. You want to talk about the sources and uses. So when you start developing those projections, I'm going to ask you to sit down and think about all of the things that are going to be expenses when you start your business. Then I'm going to ask you to tell me what all your streams of income are. And my favorite and common line to everyone is your expenses kind of are what they are. Everybody's going to have utilities. Everybody's probably going to have rent. There's common things that you're going to have. But your streams of income are kind of an unknown. When you start out and you are a new business, how do you know? How do you all know how much you're going to sell when you open your tea room? That's a really hard part for a new business of coming up with that. But we have developed ways that we analyze things, and using some other data that we have to come up with some pretty good estimates. I tend to ask my clients to be very conservative on the revenue side. I would rather you blow your projections out of the water than find that you are sinking. So we're gonna, from the sources and uses, we're gonna develop income statements, cash flow statements, a balance sheet, and we're gonna look at your break even. So everybody's here though, ultimately because they wanna know where to get the money. And I'm not gonna go into a lot of this. Some of you mentioned grants. I know that Virginia Community Capital and Jeremy will talk about some of these things. But what I do see that many people come and say, I'm looking for a grant. Are grants plentiful? In some respects, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. There are different cycles with different grants. Becky Nave will talk a little bit about that in terms of Virginia Tourism Corporation and some of the grants that they have. But sometimes people walk in with the expectation that there are all kinds of grants out there. There are all kinds of grants out there, but it's usually very specific to the industry and the business that you are in. I've worked with someone recently that was looking at a grant through Virginia Department of Agriculture. There's a grant there. It's a great program, but it also depends on the locality's Economic Development Authority agreeing that they would back that grant. And so therefore sometimes we run into some issues there. Sometimes there are local grants. The Bristol Business Challenge that ended last night, that's a good example of that. They had great funds this year. There was $80,000 that was given away last night. All free money with just some strings attached. Those are things that generally occur every year. There are grants that occur in Smith County. There are those challenges that happen in Washington County. Sometimes people decide that it is easier for them to take out a personal loan and then to fund their business. All I would say on that is if you think you're going to do that, we'll have a serious discussion and we'll tell you some things that you want to talk to an accountant about to make sure that you are setting all that up correctly. Always looking at the best way in terms of your financial structure, that you're getting the best possible and lowest tax liability from a personal and a business standpoint. These are all the supporting documents that we would recommend that you have in your business plan. The more that you can show someone about what you want to do, the better. If you filed with the State Corporation Commission, you want to have that in there. Excuse me. Any kind of feasibility or industry reports, your tax numbers through the state and the IRS, any kind of maps that might show your property, maybe pictures of the building, menus, price lists, any kind of research. All are things that help whoever that reader of your plan is visualize, and that's what you want. You want your business plan to help someone else see what you can see in your mind, okay? Now, the gig economy, that's kind of another option. And I don't know that any of you all fall into this, but just to mention that, what is that? Now we're seeing more and more people who are working, we typically have heard gigs, as being things that musicians did. But now we're seeing that a lot more all over in the economy. It may be a specific project that you're working on, and you're able to just go and you work through that project for someone, and maybe you work as a contractor for them. It could be that you have a hobby and you think you want to turn that hobby into a business. you know, there's a lot of people that decide that they are going to start a business on the side. I will tell you that I have probably worked with about 5 different retail businesses that spent a year or so developing a business out of their home. They developed their e-commerce, they sold that way, and they built up some capital until the point that they had a following, and then they opened their retail store, and they're doing well. So that is also another thing to consider. And it sounds like with your farm, I mean, that's kind of what you all have been doing, it sounds like. So, you know, all I would say on that is make sure that if you're doing it out of your home, you're doing it legally. You know, I would turn to, you know, last night, I'm going to use you all as an example. When they gave their pitch, they were asked, because they want to start a tea room, and they brought some samples of their products, which they were absolutely to die for. And, but they were asked the question, well, you know, have you all been doing this out of your home? Have you been testing the markets to see? Well, I was so glad that they answered no, because legally they can't do that. You can't do that with food unless, you know, they wouldn't want to be operating without a license. They wouldn't want to be operating without having had an inspection. They wouldn't want to be operating if they didn't have a commercial kitchen and all those kinds of things. So, you know, whatever you're doing, if you do it that way, you know, call us. You know, we'll help you figure that out. So sometimes there are ways that you can do it out of your home. Just make sure you're doing it legally. And we do provide free of charge confidential services. I am one of 4 centers in Southwest Virginia. We all do a lot together. So there are services at Blue Ridge Crossroads, up in Galax, Mountain Empire Community College, Southwest Community College, and of course I'm at Virginia Community Capital. So call us if you aren't already working with us. Like I said, we've got 2 different marketing consultants, and we will get down in the dirt with you and dig around and help you and direct you to all these resources so that we can help you either grow or get your business started. Any questions? I'll turn it over to Miss Becky.
Yeah.
On my brain.
That's what she loves, rolls.
Oh, yeah. By the time my food gets to the table, I don't even want it no more. I'm filled up on salad and big rolls.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to, as Sandy said, be back out and be offering Entrepreneur Express workshops. I think it's been since around 2016.
Well, it
Since-
started in 2006. but
right.
I think our last one was maybe 2019.
Yeah, it's been years. It seems like forever ago. And certainly, I'll just have to say, Sandy, I'm super happy to see you back out. I know the battle you've had, and I'm telling you, I was so excited for her today. It's a huge win. So we're all happy for you and been rooting for you the whole time. But I introduced myself earlier, but I'm Becky Nave with Virginia Tourism Corporation, and I'm excited to hear about your all's businesses. All of them in some way that you all mentioned today do relate to tourism, so I'm excited to hear that. I'm going to walk through a little bit deeper on some marketing strategies. And again, we are just going to we've got a short time today, but we're going to touch on some things, and then if you want to follow up or have questions or if we can help you, we most certainly want you to start with your SBDC, but also please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions on anything I've covered today. So one of the things when you're thinking about your business is you've always got to be ready and have your elevator pitch ready. We've all heard that, right? Have your elevator pitch. And you all really did a good job today. I was listening as you were describing what you were doing or wanted to do. So you kind of have already done that. Let's see if I can press the right button here. There we go. So just to give you a few tips on the elevator pitch, because you're going to want to always have it ready. And not just for business, but we always have ours ready too for what we do with Virginia Tourism, and same with Cindy and Sandy and Jeremy. We want people, if we have just a moment, to describe what we do in our businesses and what services we offer. We want to be able to do it quickly and effectively. And so typically they call it the elevator pitch because it needs to be about the time you be on an elevator, probably around 30 seconds. And so some of the things for your elevator pitch, when you're thinking about how you would write your elevator pitch for your business, this is kind of a helpful tool. And I'll tell you, there's parts of this that I'm like, well, you could take out that section or not. So you start out with your product and service, what you offer, a description of that, and who your target audience is. Then from there, and this is the part I was saying, you could leave this or take it out. I don't ever try to go to the negative side and try to keep it positive and but it's unlike my competition, I can do this, so you can choose to leave that in or out. We offer this, this, and this. And then always make sure at the end you have that call to action. Let them know how to get in touch with you. And that's super important because so many times that you'll say something to somebody or somebody will mention something to you, and then you're sitting there going, where did they say they were from, or what was that? So make sure at the end you give them that call to action so they can follow up with you, find your website. You can find me on Facebook. I know the Today Show a few years ago did a whole segment on this. I don't know if you did anybody see that? And Al Roker got on the elevator, and they rode up and down with entrepreneurs. And they physically got on the elevator, and it was part of the show, and they would ride up and down, and they would do their elevator pitch. Talking about making it real. You can go around the room and do that, but it was funny. I enjoyed that because, and then they would help them in, oh, that was a great pitch, or you didn't tell me where to find you, or, I don't even know what you said, or, there was all kinds of comments. So it was a good experiment. So think about that. Have your elevator pitch ready. I think you all already have it down. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Based on what you said today, but this will give you a way to help you increase that. So we're going to talk a little bit about marketing plan basics. And Cindy mentioned the marketing plan as part of the business plan. Just like you write that business plan, that's your roadmap for your business. The marketing plan's the same way. Your business can't get off the ground if you're not marketing it. And so you've got to make sure you spend some time on that marketing plan. Really get into thinking about your target market, who you're marketing to, thinking about when you're developing your plan, what are you trying to accomplish with that plan? And we're going to go through each one of these briefly. But what are you trying to accomplish? Who is your target audience? And then what's your message that you're trying to share with your audience? What's going to make them move to want to buy your product? How are you going to deliver it? And then what are your resources and how will you measure it? Measurement is huge. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you want to know that however you're marketing, you can measure it. If you can't measure it, you have no idea. You might be spending loads of marketing dollars thinking that a certain campaign or certain ad that you're using is working, but you really have no idea unless you can measure it. So make sure everything that you do, you can measure. So, and what are you trying to accomplish? And different people may have different goals. And I just threw some ideas out here, but is it to get new customers to visit your business? Is it to create and build brand awareness? Maybe you're just doing a campaign to build your brand and create that awareness. Is it to educate consumers about your business? So as you start this plan, you think about these questions. Then you get into who is your target audience. And I'm going to pick a little bit on, we were talking about agriculture, and agriculture is huge in Virginia. It's one of our focuses. We have agritourism in Virginia. So are you in Virginia or Tennessee?
Virginia.
Oh, great. So agritourism is continuing to grow, especially in this region, but we have an agritourism conference. We have also we have agritourism workshops, and we've got one coming in the fall. They only do like 3 a year or 4. So we've got one coming in the fall coming to Smith County. So I'll make sure I get that information for you because I think it would be good for you to attend that. They're also looking to do a agritourism trail eventually. And similar to up in the Shenandoah Valley, they have the Fields of Gold Trail. And that Fields of Gold Trail is an agritourism trail. So there's all kinds of unique ways you could tie in. So when you were talking about that, I was like, that's something I need to let you know about. So think about your target audience by location, by wants and needs, by the demographics, and present day and in the future. And when I think about a target market, I have grown children, but they're all still young, right? So a lot of times I think if it's their demographic or their age group that I'm trying to reach, I know exactly what I need to do. I mean, if it's not on Instagram or TikTok or some way through that, they're probably not going to see it because they don't read the paper. They don't look at news. They don't really, at that age group, they don't even get magazines. They're so into just whatever's on their phone. And so, but it works the same. But for me, you could reach me other ways. So you've got to really make sure that you know who you're marketing to. And then, there we go. So, in branding, it's more than just a logo. It's however that person, that customer that you have, however they perceive you, however they perceive it when they see it. We all have our feelings when we look at each one of these. We all know what they are without a name of their business being there, right? So, and if you go through each one, probably every one of us would have a different perception. We would all probably say something different because you're either a fan or you're not a fan. You may like Target, you may not like Target. So when you see that brand, it may go, I immediately go, oh yeah, I love to go there and buy home goods and clothes and everything else. My husband, on the other hand, he sees that brand. He's not interested and he doesn't really like it. So, it just depends on your perception. Same with Apple. We immediately start thinking, what do you think when you think of Apple?
Phone.
Phone. iPads.
China.
What?
China. Everything's made in China.
Everything's made in China. But what else? Take it a step further than that. What else do we think? What's the other feeling?
Technology, knowledge.
Yeah, knowledge, technology.
Quality.
Quality. Yeah. So if you really start digging deep into the brand, it goes so much deeper than just that logo. And then I had to throw this in. This is from one of our photos with our Virginia's for Lovers hat. It's really amazing. And this photo, when we do photos with animals, it's crazy the interaction we get online. In animals, baby animals especially, it's nuts. And a lot of times we do not have people at all in our photos, but if we use baby animals in our Virginia tourism ads on Visit Virginia, we will find the numbers go way up. So I wanted to share that with you because that's immediately everybody loves to see a little dog, so it's like then that's a good way to push your brand and thinking about that.
Becky, I think one of the smartest marketing ideas that I've seen in a good while from a large box style company is Dunkin' Donuts because they stuck a cup of coffee in their logo. When you think the name Dunkin' Donuts is a given, but then when you see their logo, a cup of coffee, and it reminds you that they offer, iced coffees and things of that nature. So from a marketing perspective, I thought that was just intelligent.
Yeah. And that's creative and that's smart. Yeah. Any other ideas that come to mind? So you got to also think about how you're going to deliver your message. You know who you're going. That's the importance of knowing who you're going to deliver it to. So where are you going to deliver that message? Well, as I said earlier, if I'm trying to reach that age group of my children, I know where I need to go. I need to go probably all social media. I could do some links then to my website, but it would have to be mostly social media. We talk about search engines optimizations, and that's SEOs, and that's super important. immediately when I think of an SEO, I immediately think of Google, because that's the one I use all the time to do all my searches. And so you've got to be creative in how you can rise to the top in those algorithms too. It's all based on the algorithms. So how you can rise to the top in those searches. Is it through paid ways? You know how sometimes you'll Google something and a paid ad, it will say ad will come up. And so we also, at Virginia Tourism, if you're on our website, and it's a free listing, and I'll talk about it in a minute, you can list your business for free on our website. And you automatically, because we're so, and when we do a lot of paid programming behind it, but it puts you much higher if somebody does a search. It puts you much higher up on the search. And then we have social media. There's blogs. How many of you all read blogs or do blogs? Yeah. And I have found a lot of businesses they'll do blogs and then have that link back to their business. It's also a great way when you're launching a business to write that blog and create that, that interesting content where somebody's reading it and then wants to learn more, and then they'll look at your business. Public relations, don't forget, you can be your own PR person, which you're going to probably wear all the hats, but you can be your own PR person and write your own press release. You can interview yourself. I mean, you're releasing it. I mean, and interview the president or the expert. Nobody knows. I mean, they're going to print the press release, not who sent it, so keep that in mind. And then trade shows. We do many trade shows a year, nationally and internationally. And one of them that I work with and pretty much in charge of is the IBMA Festival, which is in Raleigh, North Carolina. It draws around 250,000 people. And so being there, having that presence and having people walk by, we know it works, we hear it, and we see it, because then we have a way, we track people that have visited our booth, and then following up and seeing if they visit our website, they eventually travel to Virginia, they eventually have an itinerary that they go to. So we have found that works. Email marketing, some may say that's still an old way, but it's still a good way. We all still get emails, but I'll tell you, my promotion box in my emails is always full. I'm always getting stuff. But if it's a business I'm interested in, I'm always clicking on it, because I always look for those coupons. I always want whatever, if it's Bath and Body or wherever it's at, I want those coupons. And then rack cards. So that's another way you can deliver your message. Some will say those are out and everything's on your phone, but our welcome centers will tell you, and we've got one here in Bristol, actually at Exit 1. They will tell you that people will come in with their phone and still hold it up and say, do you have a brochure on this? Or do you have, so they still want that paper. So we think that the rack cards and guides are still very important. So having just that one piece for your business that tells what it is and how we can find you, how we can learn more about you, having that call to action on it is very important. So Jeremy's going to talk a little bit about resources and talking about, what are your resources? You've got to have a budget to market your business. So if your budget is like a lot of entrepreneurs starting out, and they're like, my budget is, there's a lot of ways you can still do some marketing for free. So how can I do that? Well, Facebook. I mean, you don't pay for Facebook. If you want to do an ad, you could do it that way. There's Facebook. There's also your family and friends, having them to help out. You may have an owner or an employee, or may find an intern that can help you with social media. I have actually one of our bigger attractions in Southwest Virginia. I was talking to them the other day, and they were saying, we don't know how to do social media. We don't have the money to pay for it. Do you have any ideas? So we connected them. They've got an intern now that's happy to do it, because we've got all these universities and colleges right here that they need internships, and they're looking for those. So connecting them with them so they can help with the marketing. So don't rule that out if you need help with marketing. Government assistance, you've got a lot of that in the room today. Business associations, joining them. Whoops, sorry about that. And then, how are you going to measure that performance? Well, there's lots of ways you can measure. Through simple data collection, and you can do that through surveying your customers. I recently learned about I don't know if you all have heard of the Gauntlet. It's a business competition up in more the Virginia Mountain region of Virginia. It's up above Roanoke and above kind of the Shenandoah Valley area. And they do a business challenge, and it's like a regional one, and it's called the Gauntlet. We're involved in it up there. And something I picked up from them that I thought was very interesting, and part of their assignments, and you all just went through the business challenge, but part of their assignment is they have to talk to 50 people and tell them about their business, tell them what they're offering, kind of give them their elevator pitch and answer any questions, but also get their response and record that and kind of get ideas, is this a feasible business idea? What was, out of 50 people, what did 50 random people, what did they tell you? And so I think that's also a great idea when you're starting a business that I wanted to throw in there. So that goes under the informal questioning. Ask your customers, ask them how you're doing, what they're looking for. The QR codes, QR codes were kind of dying out for a little bit, and then when the pandemic hit, then QR codes, now you see them everywhere. You see them even at the restaurant to look at your menu. You see them everything you do. So QR codes, that's also a great way. Have your QR code out there. If you're not doing a lot of rack cards or other information where they can grab it, have your QR codes up so they can grab it. Geofencing. So with the geofencing, we are actually really moving into this at Virginia Tourism. And we are doing geofencing around attractions all around the state to really capture that mobile data of visitors coming to Virginia and then the attractions. So you can make it different areas in the geofencing, but we've really got it drilled down to we're doing locations based on attractions. So like the birthplace of country music would be one, to really track and capture that mobile data from that. And then of course, your website and social analytics. You can pull those yourself. It's not going to cost you anything to get in there and look and pull that. And then also, don't forget that your small business development centers can help you with some of that. So this is one part that really falls a lot of times in the business plan. Sometimes it can be part of your executive summary when you're first starting out the business plan, or you could put it in the marketing side of your plan. But writing your mission statement for your business. And when you're doing that, there are 3 questions that you need to answer when you write this. And it is, what does your company do? How does your company do it? And why does your company do it? And so while you answer those questions, you may have 3 paragraphs of something. But if you break it down, you've really got to break it down and just make it like a sentence or make it short and sweet. But create that mission statement for your business. There's lots of ideas. In another presentation we do when we really get deeper into marketing, we really break it down and show you a lot of examples of that and what are good ones and what are bad ones. But if you would just Google that, you're going to find a lot of ideas there. And then same here, then for your vision statement, this is more broad. So you're going to answer the questions: who is your target audience? What are our goals? And where do we want to go? And so you're not going to make this one real specific. It's going to be pretty abstract. It's going to be your vision, what's out there for the future. So when you're doing your marketing and thinking through your marketing plan, you've got to have a calendar, because that's an important piece of your plan. So when you're thinking about your marketing calendar, there's lots of software out there that can help you with this. But in planning, whether it's your social media or what you're going to do, but do your marketing plan over several months, and figure out what you want to do each day. helps you stay on track of how often you're posting on something, if it's social media. It helps you keep on track if it's a press release or an ad. And any business that applies for one of our grants, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, we always want to see your marketing plan. What are you going to be doing? And we ask specifically, what are the dates? We want to know how far that goes, who you're placing an ad with in that date. So it helps you stay on track. You can also schedule things. So if you get a software such as Hootsuite or one of those, there's several different ones out there. You can schedule your social media posts and they automatically happen. So you could sit down on a Sunday and say, I'm going to schedule my social media posts for the next week and schedule them and be done with it. And that way you're not spending every day on it and then going, did I post this? Did I do that? Have a plan. Make it part of your plan each week. And then you have your traditional methods of marketing. And, how many of you all still feel direct mail is a good marketing tactic? No?
I think it depends on
Jackie saying yes?
what the product is.
Yeah, depends
Yeah.
on what it is.
I think the ones that have a discount, like codes, stuff,
Mhm.
like for example, Ollie's sending you 20% or whatever,
Mhm.
that I think everybody likes.
Yeah.
And food items.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. Depends on what it is. Sometimes I'm not sure that, like I get them all the time from car dealerships and with my scratch off, and I get 5,000 off my new car or whatever, some of those. But then others, like I got one the other day from Delta Blues, the barbecue place, and it came in the mail. Usually I get an email, so I was like, yeah, and I almost threw it away because I thought it was just junk mail, and I opened it up and I was like, oh, good. It was a $10 coupon. So sometimes that you have, I love that, and I'll use it, and I'll go there by that date. It was like by the end of the month, and so they'll get me by the end of the month. Yes.
I think one of the better things is, Sandy did this when we did this challenge. She sent us a package with like a pen. It was bulky, and it's like, oh, this is, I got something in the mail, rather than just a card that you would get, in the mail.
Yeah.
She did that, and I was very excited that, I use that pen all the time. It has light and
Oh,
stuff. But it was
good.
bulky,
Yeah.
and it made me feel like, oh, this is,
Get your attention.
get your attention a
Yeah.
lot easier than a card.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Then you still have the phone calls that we all just kind of block all those numbers now. A lot of times that's not really, that's not really as effective. I don't know if your block list is as long as mine, but it's like, I'm tired, I don't need, my car warranty, it may have expired, but I don't care.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Why do they
It's nuts.
Even
It
when
is
I didn't
nuts.
have a car, I was getting that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, I just all the time shake my head at those. So a lot of times phone calls are not good. Now, if you've got that personal customer list that you're doing business with, I think it depends again on the business, what type of business. If my hairdresser calls me, I'm going to answer. So it's one of those things. But if it's just random where you're trying to get new customers, I don't feel like that's as effective. We talked about the brochures and rack cards, and then your business cards. Business cards are still a thing. Put your call to action on there. Tell us how we can find you. You'll notice on the back of mine it has all of our social media for Virginia Tourism and how you can find us. And then digital marketing. So, how many of you all have a website already?
We only have
I
Yay.
can say I have one started.
All right.
Now, hair shop,
Yeah.
I have a
We
.com.
did get the domain too. But
Awesome.
already-
I have a .com.
Awesome. Well, in today's world, a website is, I think, something definitely you need because you're constantly searching for your business, or searching for a business. I Google most everything, trying to find a business. And so if it comes up and then I can find your info on there, and then also keeping it up to date. There's nothing worse than finding a website and it's not up to date, or the information is no longer correct, or even the link doesn't work or something. So that's frustrating. You also have electronic ads. You have the email marketing I talked about, the mobile and the text messaging. So I get now a lot of text messages from businesses, usually larger companies though, that send me, their specials they're having this week or a coupon, and it works. I mean, I'm interested in shopping there because I get that. And then of course social media. And again, social media I feel like is one of the best ways to reach people. You've got so many different types of social media these days. So, and I'm interested to hear how many of you all use all of these channels. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with Facebook, Instagram, but how many of you all still think Twitter is effective? Yeah.
All that stuff, so, Pinterest and Twitter actually help a lot more with your with the ranking of the SEO.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you share with you that, like the program I have, it'll always show me how many people shared on Twitter, how many people shared on Pinterest. So they're looking at that stuff in the algorithm.
And I think it's like also who you're targeting. Kids would be TikTok. You would not find kids on Facebook, for example, or even Twitter.
Yep.
YouTube is sort of, I think, mostly men.
What's that middle one? IN? I've never seen
That's LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
It's like,
That's for
yeah,
business.
their professional network. Yeah.
That's what.
Well, what's the yellow one?
The yellow one is Snapchat.
Snapchat, yeah.
And so I have found, we were doing Snapchat some with Virginia Tourism, and we didn't really use it that much. We use it, but we didn't find the return on it. What I will say is now I've noticed on Snapchat, there's all kinds of ads that are popping up. Amazon's really hopped. I mean, it seems like I could pull it up right now. There'll probably be an Amazon ad that pops up. So there's a lot of ads so you could buy, and you can also, what I like about Snapchat is if it's, if you're having a special event, you can put a filter on it to say, it's your business or whatever the event is. And so people can then Snapchat it that way. But, it's not, you only have so many followers. So if you're just starting out, you're not going to have a gigantic amount of followers right off. TikTok, we have really been going crazy with TikTok at Virginia Tourism. We have found that, it's growing by thousands all the time. And it's extremely popular. It's also a way that we can get the word out, especially if yesterday I mentioned we were down in Dickinson County, someone from our PR team was there, or our social team, and they were from the zip line to whatever doing TikToks and sharing it. So, it's a good way for us to promote what's in the area.
Are you all doing TikTok ads at all yet?
Not yet. Yeah, and we just started, honestly, TikTok probably 6 to 8 months ago. It wasn't that long ago. And I was seeing all these different bloggers or TikTokers posting, and I thought it was us because it was all over, places to spend the night in Virginia, or places to visit in Virginia, or places to go have fun in Virginia, trails to climb or hike in Virginia. And so then we started our own, but we have found it's been very effective.
And we'll keep you up till long hours of the morning watching.
Yeah, the algorithm is strong on that, like
Oh.
targeting your audience, like.
Yes.
it's very
You get drawn into it, and next thing you know, you watch umpteen videos, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning. You're like,
Yes.
"I'm gonna go to bed."
Yeah, you're right. It's addictive.
And
It's,
another thing that we've looked at, and, really haven't gotten as far with this as I would like, but, if you are trying to draw people from other areas, other states, then you probably really want to start looking at some big influencers in those areas and start thinking, how do you reach them to advertise for you?
Yeah.
And I'll also say, with all these platforms, they give it to you for free. I mean, it's not actually free, they're using all your data, but they can also kick you out anytime they want. So if you do anything wrong, because I went through it myself with my Facebook business page, and it wasn't anything I did wrong, but I tried to, they verified me. I'd put the code in, hit OK, and it would never do anything. I couldn't get a hold of anyone or anything else, so
Yeah.
that's where your website really comes into play. You own your website, you don't own your Facebook page, Zuckerberg does, you know?
Yeah.
So you just have to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always point out to small businesses, if you put on Facebook or Instagram that you're closed today, well, some people may see that tomorrow, or they may see that next week. So I always say on those type of things, I think Twitter is more effective than putting those things on Facebook to say, and say what the day is. But a lot of the businesses I have worked with have said they go to Twitter if they're announcing that. Not that they have all their customers, they're not the same on every single platform. But I thought that was a good point. Be careful whether you use Twitter or whatever, but be careful putting we're closed today, because if you don't put that date, somebody may see it later, and it may cause you to lose business. So either remember to go back and delete the post, or put today is, put the date that you're closed.
Along
Or-
the lines of the timeliness issue.
Yes.
In researching this nonprofit, I've been researching a lot of sites of other organizations that provide services for improving the standard of living.
Yeah.
And I'll look at their, here's their news post or their media post. And the latest post was for an event 2 years ago. And then I think, well, this can't be a relevant group, right?
Yeah.
If they haven't posted anything in 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
And another little thing that I've noticed, so almost every website now has the secure posting, right, the HTTPS.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that, now with most browsers, you get a warning at the top that says this is not a secure website. So
Yeah.
even if it's just information, you feel like, is it safe to even look at the information on here? So
Mm-hmm.
that's almost the new standard now, I think, is to have a secure website.
Yeah, and it would make me very nervous in putting my credit card information if I'm buying your product that way. Yeah. Well, of course, this could be a whole day in itself, but Pinterest also is a great way because you can post pictures of your product or service, or we do pictures of places to visit in Virginia, and then people will click and then go to our website. So we get a lot of folks that visit us through Pinterest, and then YouTube. YouTube, you have, and it goes back to the demographic, but you have so many that are using YouTube. I use a lot of YouTube, and again, I know my children that are young, grown children all use YouTube, and so that's another idea. So I wanted to touch just a minute on, I know I'm running close to time, but on customer service, because I think this is another key thing that's important for your business. You've got to have top-notch customer service. And if you don't, then it's going to hurt you now, because there's so many, we talked about all the social media ways, and people will talk about you. They'll get on and get upset about your business, and that's the last thing you want to happen. And so you want, with customer service, it is, a lot of it's still word of mouth, because we're telling, if it's good or bad, we're usually telling something about it. It will help in getting your visitors to come back, and it's a low-cost way to increase your profits, because good customer service, you're building that relationship, and it's super important. Other strategies is, if something does happen and go wrong with your business, make it right. To the best of your ability, do what you can to make it right. And then also, I put that in there, but provide a little something extra, to let them know you're sorry. Sorry this happened, this is what we want to do to make it right. Sometimes it's just out of your control, but if you can make it right and keep them happy, they'll go, they made it right and they came back, and I appreciate that.
And that goes a long way.
It does.
It goes a long way, because it'll draw that customer back.
Yes, it does. And also think about your employees. If you hire employees, you want them to feel that same way. So make sure they know you expect them to treat your customers, top-notch. Also, they know, let them know their limits. What do I do if I have an upset customer? Well, here's what you can do. This is, and make clear direction on what you allow your employees to do. You know, you want them to make it right, because 9 times out of 10, if they go out that door or you're off the phone with them, then you're not sure they're going to come back, and then you're afraid of what they're going to go tweet or post. So just keep that in mind. I think it's a great way to keep track of your customers and to keep them coming back. You can offer and do surveys. How are we doing? You know, and ask them. Do surveys for your business. It's real easy, and that's another free thing you can do, whether you do it digital or on a piece of paper. And just remember, marketing plans change all the time. All the time. Don't build that one plan and think it's going to work forever. It changes because of business growth. It changes because you may find in research something's not working, you need to tweak it. Economic factors. Technology's always changing. Social media, what's next? You know, 2 years ago, I don't think we were talking about TikTok or even Snapchat. So, you know, things are always changing. But just remember, you got to move with the changes and be ready. Who expected a pandemic to happen? You know, the impact it had on us in tourism and visitors in Virginia, I mean, it was terrible. And I felt really sorry for a lot of our small businesses that were, you know, dependent on those visitors coming to town. And so, but we've always, and you know what? We kind of like everybody's marketing plan 2 years ago went out the window. I don't care what kind of business you have. So, you know, just remember, things are always changing. Just don't create that marketing plan and leave it. Update it often. I just wanted to add about virginia.org. That's our website. And you can have a free listing on it if you are tourism related in some way. So this can be a main business listing if it's an attraction, lodging, anything like that. But events, tours, exhibits, there's all kinds of ways, meeting spaces, venues, if you offer certain deals and discounts for visitors, itineraries, there's all kinds of ways that you can advertise on there, and you can just either work through your local tourism office. So for Bristol, Virginia, that's located out of here, and that's Christopher Perrin with the Bristol CVB. He tracks and keeps up with the listings for Bristol. So that would be one way, or you can create your own account and make your own listings. I always say we hire many influencers, we hire many travel writers, and everything that we do, and we have many that come through here. You see a lot of the product and articles that come out from that. Everything though we do, our staff doesn't have time to call every little place and say, hey, we want to send a travel writer, or are you still open, or whatever. Keep it up to date. Everything they do, they pull straight from here. They pull it and send them. It's like, here you go. And so here are the business. So if you're not on there, also, they won't know about you. And it's free. We have all kinds of resources. I'm not going to go into all of these, but I will say, if you're interested in learning more about Virginia tourism and what we offer, we're doing a an online orientation, which we have not usually done that in the past. It's always been in person. So if you're interested in attending our, I was trying to say virtual orientation, we've actually got one coming up next week. And so you can register for that on vatc.org, and that website address is on my card. But it walks through, and you'll hear all of our strategies from every person in each department, from PR to marketing to brand. I work in the partnership marketing division, which is the ones that work directly with localities, and we're the boots on the ground folks in the region. But you'll hear from every area. So it's a great opportunity. It's free. If you can take an hour here or there, you can pop in and out of it, but it's half days. But I would encourage you to learn. That way you can hear about all of our services. And then we also, through, you can use also, if you're interested in using the Virginia's for Lovers brand, we have a link on our website where you can sign up and get rights. It's a request to use it. I feel it adds value to everything we do. So if you're interested in doing that, we get that call all the time. Or maybe you're talking to somebody that was like, they want to use the brand. They can put it on their product, their website, whatever it is. We have a industry advertising co-op program. And this is where we've already bought down the ads and the prices for them. And if you're interested in doing any type of advertisement, we have these agreements already made out. And it's also through for Facebook ads, Google ads, and then a lot of magazines. And so please take a look at those again at vatc.org. It's on our website. We have two different websites. So virginia.org is for the visitors, and VATC is for industry. So keep that in mind and check out the co-ops, because you could buy ads or get things pretty cheap on there because we've already bought it down. And then we have a LoveWorks program. Who all have seen the big love, we call them LoveWorks, but the big love signs around? If you're interested in having one of those at some point at your business, we have a reimbursement program. You just fill out an application. It takes all about 5 minutes. And we'll reimburse you up to $1,500 for that love work for you to build it. So some people, it costs more than that, and others can do it because they get it volunteered or whatever. So just that idea. And then we have, don't forget about our welcome centers, and then also we have grants. And so I don't know if you all saw the announcement this past week. The governor announced we just released $2.7 million in grants to industry partners and attractions and localities. Bristol was a recipient of 2 of the grants, which was $30,000. And so, and then also several of our attractions in town got those grants. So, and businesses. So, and that was an additional amount. But so businesses can apply for those. A lot of times people think it's only the locality that can apply, but businesses can apply for our grants as well. So keep your eyes open. We just ended a round, but we'll open a new round. They're saying July, it might be the 1st of August. So, but you can sign up to get on our grant notification list. If you'd like to be on it, make sure I get your email and I'll add you to it. And then, so that's all I have. And any questions from you all?
I loved your sign in front of the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was gone, and we were so sad.
Oh, yeah. So the one in front of the Bristol Hotel?
Yes.
So, yes. So we bring our big digital LoveWorks for Bristol Rhythm and Roots, and it sits kind of in front of the Veterans Memorial. I believe we've scheduled another LoveWork to come in front of the Bristol Hotel. And those are ones that they're leasing from us. So all of these get leased. You can also do that if you're having a wedding or an event. For my children's weddings, I've had the LoveWorks there. They're a beautiful addition for things like that. So, but we have one on the side of the Quaker State. It's Bristol's. And then, but I agree, I'd love to see one in the park or see one somewhere.
I thought it was like a permanent thing.
Yeah.
And we were like, and we didn't even take a picture. We were like, oh, they're gonna be forever. And then it was gone. It was such a disappointment.
It'll be back. They rent those, the different groups that put on the different events, they rent those from us. And you can rent them for around, the big digital one is, it's several thousands of dollars to rent just because it's so heavy. You have to have a forklift to lift each letter. Yeah, but the one you're talking about, I think the white one, we bring it. Those are around $500 to rent for her event. So, but yeah, and we bring them from Richmond, our warehouse, and set them up.
Including delivery?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, so if you have a big event or something and you just want to rent them and don't care about building your own set to have permanent, but that's why we do the reimbursement program, because so many people have been interested in having their own set, sitting there. So anyway, and it also is a different way to get visitors. We also put a link if you have a permanent set on our website, and we have visitors that come to Virginia just to go hit all the LoveWorks. Yeah, that's part of what they're doing, and we'll track them on social media as they're going through and getting their pictures with all of them. All right.
What about miniatures?
The what?
Do you have miniature size love sign?
I would say the smallest one we have, honestly, when you say miniature, it's not really the sign, is the Bristol one on that side of the Quaker State.
Yeah.
That one's small. That's probably one of the smallest loaves that we've done like a reimbursement for. We used to have really strong restrictions saying they had to be so tall
Right.
and they do have to be a permanent structure. So you want to build them big enough to where people can have their pictures made, with them, and they're not so small that the people overpower the love. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I mean, we're certainly looking at everything.
I was
So we
thinking
want
that
to share the love, spread the love, and send love everywhere. So,
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking, if people saw the sign and was, got accustomed to looking for where it's at, and different businesses that might be.
yes.
Learn something about it.
Yeah, that's
And I
right.
thought it was like just, they put
Yeah.
it there and
I-
it's gonna be there.
I have seen some over at Sugar Hill Brewery. Y'all talking about breweries earlier in St. Paul. They've got one inside the brewery that's made out of wood, and it stands about probably that tall. Because I kind of leaned on it when and it's really pretty. It looks like it's made of like barrels, so. But you can check them out on the website. There's so many different ones. They're beautiful. We're up to about 300 now
Oh, wow.
across the state. And I think 3 years ago, we were just over 100. So it's a pretty big deal. Okay, so now, sorry, I've used up all my
Y'all
time.
want to take a short
And,
10-15 minute break, or you want to keep going?
Well,
Only like a break.
I want to hear about the money, baby.
yeah,
Maybe just a 5 minute break.
yeah.
Okay, 5 minutes.
5 minute
Folks, you want to get started back?
This virtual, like you're working on Zillow. You do it in school. You know, like come in and get like.
Yeah.
Right.
Just now check it, make sure I hit the right button. I'm usually the one that cuts it off. So
Got you.
I hit the right
So
button.
much of it. And you have a video. There's all kinds of stuff you can do, but it's just finding the time and the effort to do it.
Good to go?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm, introduced myself earlier, but I'm Jeremy Repass, the senior business lender with People Incorporated. Been with People Inc. now right at actually just celebrated 7 years in April. And got to meet a lot of interesting people, a lot of interesting businesses. Before starting with People Inc., I was not in business financing, so this was a culture change actually for me to come into the business aspect of things. First of all, let me say my hat's off to people who want to start a business. I just don't even see how you even embrace everything to do it, because everything that it takes up, I think a lot of people that don't see the behind the scenes things that you all do, I mean, there's a whole lot to it, because when you're a business owner, when you work for someone, you have to worry about your livelihood. When you are a business owner that has employees, you're worried about everybody else's livelihood. So, big step, and I commend you and thank you for doing that. So, what I want to do is go over a few financial resources that we may have. I'm not much of a reader, so I've got some slides here, but you'll see that I'll get off subject somewhat and get into things more the meat and potato things. So, there are two main ways to finance your business: equity and debt. Okay? Equity would be that money or those resources that you have available to you at your disposal. Okay? Of course, debt is that borrowed money that you would have. So, startup equity financing typically is sourced through things like your personal savings, like I said earlier, your money, friends or relatives that may be willing to help out or want to help out with your project, angel or informal investors, and crowdsourced funding. As you know, angel investors are those people that are kind of behind the scenes, that don't necessarily want to be in the face of the business, but they want to be the financial backing behind that. And there's usually some type of return that comes in that for them by source of maybe a part ownership and a very small ownership in the equity of the company or something like that. You see this a lot on Shark Tank, that kind of thing. Okay? Crowdsourced funding, of course, you know, those come in many different forms, GoFundMe, those kind of things that are helpful in some regard, but they're very unpredictable. Okay, so you definitely don't want to put all the eggs in that basket. So why invest your money in the business? Well, for the obvious reason that it's the least costly source of funds. Okay, unless you're paying equity to yourself, there's no reason that there would cost money in order to use your own money. You're more likely to get a loan, because as lenders, we want to see skin in the game. We want to see what you are contributing to your business, more so of what we're going to be contributing to your business. If you don't have enough faith in what you're doing and belief in what you're doing to invest your own money if it's available, why would a lender lend you theirs? Okay. A business that has adequate equity is more likely to succeed. That's, I mean, it is as it reads, right? So the different types of financing that you can get, of course, are line of credit, used to cover short-term expenses and supplies and payrolls and those kind of things. Credit cards, I like to say these are along about the same line. I mean, a line of credit cards somewhat work somewhat of the same. Credit cards a little bit more accessible, if you will. And a lot of times credit cards can be a lot more expensive than a line of credit. Okay. Supplier's credit. This is real good, particularly if you're going to open up the tea. You know, you might want to be able to get your cups and those type of things from a supplier, and you may not have to finance that working capital through a bank. You may have a supplier that says, hey, we do our special programs where you're buying our cups, okay? And sometimes that can be a least expensive way of approaching certain things. There's usually contracts that come into play with that, so you kind of have to weigh your options. Okay, do I want to get tied in such as Coke or Pepsi, those kind of things? Do I want to get tied in to some type of contract with them. A business term loan, which is what People Incorporated is primarily known for, the business term loans. Our loans are term loans set up on a certain time frame. All of our rates are fixed rates, they're not adjustable, and none of our loans have a prepayment penalty, which are key factors you want to watch for. We'll get into a little bit here in a few. Leasing, again, a great option. There again, it can be costly to the business. It's leasing, it's just like anything else. There's usually a high cost to doing that. There's benefits to it. You may get some low payments, but those terms may be really long that can be costly in the long run. And of course, government programs that are out there to support small businesses. Investigate all your options. I know Cindy was talking earlier about some of the programs. There's grants out there. There's grants for just about everything that you could imagine, okay? And within those grants, you have to understand how they work. A lot of people, when they think grants, they think, well, this is free money. And they don't mean any disrespect by saying free money. Free money is always good. But sometimes grants can come in the form of loans, okay? Prime example, downtown Bristol redevelopment program. A lot of banks here locally went together and formed this grant, which is where People Incorporate administer and give loans out of that fund for businesses that are located within a certain particular area, like up and down State Street, West State Street, those kind of things. So, with the love her heart.
Shoes on. Sorry. I'm sorry.
She's like, I don't learn about money.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Come on, put your shoes on. Put your shoes on.
So, as I was saying, the grants, they come in many different forms, okay? And most of the time it's set up to where they're given out for loans, but there's special provisions that are given to small businesses, low interest rates, those kind of things. So, credit cards, we talked about them. They're the most expensive. Credit lines may be cut unexpectedly, and they have the most risk. It's not uncommon for a credit card company. You have a $10,000 limit. Even on the personal side, it's not uncommon for a credit card company to call and say, hey, your limit's been cut for no reason whatsoever. It could be a policy change that they've had within, say, Capital One or someone like that, to where they've took and shifted their policies that make your credit line not accessible to you like it was before. Well, if you have a credit card that you're dependent on that $10,000 line of credit, that could be really costly to you if all of a sudden that gets cut back to $5,000 and you've already got $5,000 on that card. Now, where's your working capital going to come from? Okay, so it's very dangerous. Personal savings, as I mentioned earlier, has the lowest expense, lowest risk. Do not use all of your money to finance your business. Okay, while we want to see personal investment from a lending standpoint, we want to see you invest in your business. We want to see you have a cushion as well. It is not our desire as lenders to have you to spend all your money just to come to us. That's not very smart. When you go to buy a home, for those that have bought a home, one of the things that lender wants to see is that you've got money in savings. Why? Because when a pandemic hits that nobody knew about, we want to know that you have other options. Okay? Bank financing, pretty much the same as People Incorporated in that regard, as you're borrowing somebody else's money. Small Business Administration guarantee loans. I always like to, being from Southwest Virginia, when I get on the phone with people, I'll have folks that call from California or different places. Becky years ago used to work with People Incorporated, and when people go to Google or something and they search small businesses, you'll find that they give, the SBA will have a list of lenders for a particular area, and sometimes they will accidentally get diverted to us. And I always like to tell, because the last thing I want to do when I get on the phone with any entrepreneur or business owner or anything is to shut the door. I always like to provide options, even if I can't help them in regards of financing. So with the Small Business Administration, I always like to go into the guarantee loans. A lot of people ask, what's the difference between a microloan or what People Inc. does versus what a bank does with an SBA loan? Well, to keep things simple, if I may, think of it as a bank. They have their own, they have their own vault. They have their own money to lend. Okay. they have their own restrictions. Well, the SBA will step in and say, I'll tell you what, if you will lend your money to certain businesses that meet certain criteria, that cross, certain T's and dot certain I's, we will guarantee that if this loan defaults or goes bad, we will guarantee a portion or a percentage of that money back as long as you've done all of these things. Okay? That's how a guarantee loan works. Just like your mortgage with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, it's the exact same way. With people incorporated or people that do microloans, a little bit different. And again, to keep, for simplicity reasons, we go and borrow that money from the SBA directly. And we say, hey, we want X amount of dollars to loan with. Now, there's a lot of red tape and a lot of, in-betweens in there and things that we have to do in order to meet that money, and money is given for other reasons. But from a lending standpoint, we go to the SBA and we say, hey, we want to borrow this money, and this is what we're going to do with it. We're going to give it to small businesses in increments of $50,000 or less. Money can't be used for real estate purchase from an SBA microloan standpoint. Okay, there's 7A loans and things that are made for real estate purchases through the SBA. So the difference between a bank is you're still using the bank's money. You're just getting a backing or a co-signing, if you will, from the SBA, as long as the bank does all these things for you. With People Incorporated, you're borrowing money from us that we have in turn borrowed from the SBA. Okay? So that's how those microloans work versus an SBA guarantee loan.
Does interest having been significant from the bank to you, from you to me?
It can, okay, in that People Incorporated borrows this money, say at 3% from the SBA, okay? And of course, we're nonprofit, but we have to have operating income, okay? So what we do is we may say, well, what we're offering is prime plus 4. So if prime currently, for example, right now, we've stayed at 7.5% because the interest rates are all over the place. And of course, they're going up now because the economy's picking back up. So, that's what they say. So from an interest standpoint, we go to them and say, okay, we want to borrow this money at 3.5%, and we'll mark it up 4%. So we're going prime plus 4. So that's where our interest rate of, say, 7.5 would come into play, is because out of that 7.5, 3.5% of that is going back to the SBA for the money we borrowed. Not necessarily particularly for your loan, but on a larger scale. It's apples to apples. So that's where that interest rate comes into play. Now, banks may be a little different. They can adjust their rates as they need be, based upon the market, the prime, and those kind of things. And banks are different. Some banks have higher rates than others. So I hope that answered your question. Okay. So, and nonprofit community lenders. People Inc.'s a nonprofit organization. So get your financial house in order. So what do I need to do to prepare myself to go speak to lenders to borrow this money? It's a very broad question, okay? And it all depends upon what type of business you're in. But I want to kind of go over where you need to start heading in that direction to get to where you need to be, okay? Obtain a copy of your personal credit report. I'm a certified credit counselor. I do several credit classes for different programs within the agency. Quite often, usually, sometimes one upwards of 2 a month. And I always like to tell people, remember, that whole old saying of every time your credit report's pulled, it pulls your score down, it's true. Okay? Now, I will say that back when the housing market crashed, President Obama created the CFPB, which is the Consumer Protection Bureau. And one of the things that one of the congressmen had wrote into a bill that passed was that shopping for credit shouldn't be, people like us that are looking for credit should not be penalized for looking for credit. You shouldn't be penalized for shopping to save your money. Well, that's what was happening in the long scheme of things. When people were going around to different banks, every time your credit was being pulled, it was bam, 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 bam. Next thing you know, your score's going from a 750 down to a 710 because you shopped for credit. You were being penalized. So there was a bill passed in Congress that included some provisions that said within a certain amount of time, if you're shopping for credit, your score doesn't get impacted quite like it used to. Okay? Does have an impact, but not as bad. But having said that, know what your credit is, because when you go in to talk to a lender and you can speak intelligently about what's on your credit, you may find that some restrictions may automatically eliminate you or qualify you for certain programs. Well, there's no point in talking to a lender if you fall outside the grand scheme of things from a credit standpoint, having them pull your credit just to find out, well, we can't do it. Then you've got issues. So know what your credit is. Look at it. Credit Karma is a godsend, okay? Check for inaccuracies and mistakes. Of course, you want to fix those things. It's too late when the lender looks at it because you're up at a time crunch. You've got your money invested in your business. Time is of the essence. Make certain that all accounts are current and that there's no outstanding judgments or lien. If there's derogatory information, be proactive and prepare and explain problems and why the problem existed. We're all human. We all, as lenders, we all understand that things happen. Life happens, okay? Marriages don't work out. There's divorces. That has an impact on your credit. You have a newborn child. That has an impact on your credit, okay? I just recently, it's been 6 years ago, started dating a lady. I was a single, no kid, bachelor, had my own pad. I was loving it. I was eating it up. I met a girl from Marion. Long story short, she moved to Myrtle Beach. She ended up coming back. She had an 11-year-old child. Lord help me, okay? I mean, it was a culture change for me in that regard because I went from not having any kids to saying, I just don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I'm ready, to having an 11-year-old move in with me, and that was a drastic change. So life happens. Things happen. Finances change. That's what I was getting at. So, as Cindy had mentioned earlier, lenders typically want to see 3 to 5 years of financial projections, okay? We're going to focus real hard on the first 12 months. I mean, we're going to look and see where you're starting out. That's where probably 75% of our focus, or my focus anyway, is going to be, because I want to see how you're going to start off. Have you thought this through? Okay? But 3 to 5 years shows that you did your due diligence and that you've studied your business, your craft, okay, and the financial aspects of it. Tax returns, financial statements, and their schedules. Year-to-date financial statements. If you have been doing this on the side, okay, somewhat, make sure that you're keeping up with that, even if it's on a small scale and you're like, you know what, I don't know that this is going to take off to a full-blown business just yet. I see so many times that folks sit around and they've been operating for, say, 4 months, and they just don't think they're going to make that much money, so they don't keep up with their finances that well. Well, that's going to create you a problem when you go to file a tax return, number one. But it's even going to hurt you more when you try to prove that to a lender that I've been doing this for 4 months and I'm telling you this will succeed. Well, if you don't have the financial records to show that exists, it doesn't. So keep up with those things. Other financial documents that may help with the lender: neatly photocopy all your documents and prepare for your presentation. When you go to your SBDC, okay, the worst thing you can do is walk in and say, I need you to do my business plan, okay? Cindy, I think I speak, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not Cindy's job to do your business plan. It's Cindy's job to help you, guide you, and mentor you into doing your business plan. Because that business plan is about you. I don't want to see Cindy's business plan, okay? She's not the one applying. She provides that information. That's the purpose of the SBDCs, is to be that support mechanism in what you need. So what are we looking at?
Add to that, that's why usually when I start working with somebody, that we may work for 3 different sessions. Usually depending on their timeline, that could be over a 3-month period of time.
Right.
But, lots of people are doing them in 6 weeks, but, we work through all of that to try to help them make sure they're in good shape with that.
Anytime I've sent somebody to Cindy or Mandy or Margie, I always tell them, if you go in there and with nothing, then you're going to leave with nothing. Because you have to put into that, okay? So what are lenders looking for? Be specific in the things you're asking. I love this first bullet point because Ernie Maddie with Virginia Community Capital, every time we do a Where's the Money session, and Sandy's already shaking her head, the first thing Ernie Maddie says, and I make sure never to steal Ernie's thunder on this because it's kind of like going to Chick-fil-A and you hear my pleasure. When I'm in something with Ernie Maddie, I know that's going to be one of the first things he talks about, and it's so stand to be true. And that's, know how much money you need. Don't walk in there and look at a lender and go, how much can I get? That just says I ain't playing for nothing all over it, okay? Now, the worst thing we want to be told as human beings is the word no. That's a given. My financial history and the background come from personal finance, and I always had every member of the staff. I said, you never want to look at anybody and say, how much do you need? Because there's always that hesitation. Well, I can use 20,000. Can I get 15? You know, and from a for-profit side of things, which is what I worked for before People Incorporated, that's not very wise. That's you as a business owner. You know, the last thing you want to do is somebody comes in and say, well, can I get you a cup of tea? Can I get you? You want to look and say, how many cups of tea do you need? I got cups all day. It's a little bit different in financing. You don't want to look and say, how much money do you need? You know, because they're going to be hesitant. They don't want to be told no. Okay? So know how much you need and go in with confidence that you need that much money. If you have to walk it back, hey, we can walk it back. Particularly at People Incorporated, I'm here to get you money and help you. We're not here to shoot you down and say no. We serve no purpose when you walk out that door. You know how many jobs I help you create when you walk out that door? None. Matter of fact, I probably help you get rid of some because I didn't help you sustain your business. So that's the last thing we want. So know how much money you need when you go in there. Be prepared to support all costs with estimates, invoices, contracts, and never tell a lender you want to borrow as much money as possible. Have your documentation. Okay? Know what you're going to spend your money on. Show us what you're going to spend money on. So many times I hear people walk in and they're like, what they're asking for in the end result is, I want some working capital. I need money to operate my business. And before getting into this line of work, it never dawned on me that that's a very scary thing to ask for, because it's almost like saying, I'm not going to make any money in the beginning of my business, but I'm asking you to give me a payment. That's not uncommon. You're not going to make money. Most of the businesses do not make money starting off. Most companies don't do nothing but, you know, some of you are already somewhat in business, right? You spend probably, when you start off, you probably spent more money than you'll probably ever see, it feels like, right? So asking for working capital, asking for money to keep your business afloat is not uncommon. That's what working capital's for, okay? To help get that cash flow going. Prepare a primary source of repayment. Demonstrate how you're going to pay the loan back. Well, you want to show for this. And when Cindy was talking about your financial projections, so many times I see people come in with financial projections that they've created on their own, and they're blowing it out of the water. Okay, I am not an expert in any line of business. Okay, I'm just not. That's not. You know, I'm good with numbers and those kind of things, but I'm not good at predicting how many cups of tea I can sell in a day. That's just not me. But human instinct and just looking at a piece of paper can almost tell you when something's exaggerated beyond belief. Okay, I mean it's very easy and obvious to see, especially if you live in this area and you're a lender. Okay, so the last thing you want to do is blow it out of the water. You said a thing that I loved earlier, and that was that she likes people using a conservative approach from revenue. We don't want to see that you're going to be the next billionaire. We want you to be, but we don't want to see that that's the way it's going to become. We want to see you can pay the bills and sustain the business. That should be priority number one. Show me you can make my payment. Not make my payment and afford a whole bunch more stuff. I ain't worried about that the other stuff that somebody wants to buy. Let's worry about today, okay? Debt service coverage, of course, is earnings before interest, tax, and depreciation. So what happens when I look at your tax returns? A lot of people see a negative number at the bottom. That's not an uncommon to show a loss as a business, okay? Depreciation that you take on equipment or those kind of things are not a monetary loss, so those get added back into your bottom line. Technically, you didn't hand out $1. You might have lost equity and value in something, but you didn't lose an actual dollar that you're working with. So that gets added back in. Interest that you paid to banks gets added back in, and your taxes that you paid gets added back in. So when you see a negative $5,000 on your tax returns, a lot of people won't go into a bank because they're like, I lost money. Why would they give me any more? You know, that's not always the case. From a tax standpoint, you lost money. But from a lending standpoint, that might not be the case. You might actually have made a whole lot more money than you think from a dollar point of view. So debt to income, we take that earnings, how much you made, and we take your debt service coverage and divide that by how much money you've made to give us a ratio of how many dollars of debt you have per dollar of income. Just like your personal income. When you go to buy a home, they want you to be somewhere around 60-40. Same concept, just different numbers, okay? People Incorporated, I'll tell you, what we want to see in a business, because we understand that everything's going to fluctuate, all I have to show is that for every $1 of debt that you currently have and that I give you, you have $1 of income to cover that debt. So after you work with Cindy and you do your financial projections, if you haven't added in that payment, when I go to add in that payment, all I want to see is that you make enough at the end of the day to pay all your expenses that you're already accounting for and the payment that I give you. That's all I have to do. So blowing your financials way out of the water, it's just going to turn more heads away from you than it is towards you. Make sure you have a backup plan. Some people start this up on a side, a secondary thing, and they're working a job outside of what they're doing. This is great, okay? But it's not always feasible. Sometimes your business calls for so much of your attention, it's not even funny. Back when I started with People Incorporated, I'll never forget this. Back when I started with People Incorporated, was just kind of getting my feet on the ground and so forth. I had a gentleman come into my office. You could tell he just got off work from somewhere. He come in, he said, I want to start up my own business. Okay. You know, I was still new to all of this, so I was very selective in my questions and conversation because I didn't want to say something I'd have to take back. And he says, I am sick to death of working 50 to 60 hours every day. I want to start my own business. And I'm thinking, you don't want to start your own business then, because it's going to get worse than that, right? I mean, some of y'all would love to only work 50 hours a week, right? So, but have a secondary source of income. If you can keep that outside source of income, or if you're in partnerships with somebody and they can keep their outside source of income, that's going to strengthen the loan as given. Like Cindy said earlier, one of the worst things you could do, though, is come in, and it's kind of funny when some people say this. They come in and, I'm not going to pay myself. I'm not going to pay myself. Well, how are you going to pay your light bill and stuff like that? Are you going to keep your regular, your day job too and try to do? No. I'm like, well, then you got to pay yourself. Let's be honest. As much as I love doing this, I play music on the side. That's my hobby, okay? But I'm not going to do it for free, okay? I love it. I love doing it. I thank the good Lord for the talent to do it. Don't get me wrong. But it takes up my time. It's a whole lot of work. I'm not going to do it for free. So don't do anything for free. Make sure you're paying yourself, okay? But have a secondary source of income. Have a backup plan, if you will. So small business loans, what do People Incorporated offer? Well, our focus is to offer loans up to $250,000, okay, or below. Terms of about 10 years or longer. We do offer balloon options. How many of you are familiar with balloon loans? Most of you, okay. Take it as you will, right? I mean, it's one of the things. When they have their pros and their cons. If you know that, if you feel really, you have a good business plan, you're really confident that 10 years down the road your business is going to be able to sustain a type of payment, but you just can't do it currently, then a balloon loan may be something to look into, okay? Because it will give you a lower payment. It's amortized over, say, 20 years. So you have a payment that looks like it's a 20-year term loan, but what happens is it's actually termed at 10 years. So you have a 20-year payment for 9 years and 11 months, and then that last payment is the payoff of that loan. So at that point in time, you're either going to pay it off or refinance it. Well, refinancing it, you're at the mercy of qualifying for a refinance, okay?
Now, I've never heard it explained that way. I've heard it explained that not long after your business starts, the balloon starts.
Okay, you talk about like an escalated payment type thing?
Yes.
I've heard of those loans. I haven't personally dealt with it, but a balloon loan, when you talk about balloon terms, what they focus on is, like I said, you'll have a payment, and it's almost like going, what would my payment be on 20 years? Where your payment would be $500 a month, okay, for 20 years. Well, you have that $500 a month payment for, if it's termed for 10 years, you'll have that 20-year payment for, like I said, 9 years, 11 months. And then your last payment's a balloon payment. So it's the payoff of the loan. And then you'll look at refinancing for another 10 years. Banks use that for, a couple banks use that for two different things. They use it because if the rates are going to change, prime example, if somebody, during the pandemic, the rates were bottomed out, okay? Rates were really cheap, mortgages, that was the time, if you could refinance, that was the time to refinance your mortgage. If it had not been for a pandemic, if that had been any other situation, I can guarantee you that most financial institutions would look at that and want to start doing balloon loans. Because what happens when the pandemic started easing out, rates started going back up. So what happens is, we're gonna refinance you right now, we're gonna refinance your mortgage at say 3.5%. But then as soon as that pandemic comes out, say your balloon comes up, however long it is, well, now you've got to refinance. And guess what the rates are now? So banks and some financial institutions, for profit, can use that to leverage making more money. It's for profit.
So they plan that ahead.
Yes, sometimes they do. Now, you're at the banks and financial institutions are at the mercy of the market.
Isn't
It
that
could
how-
not play in their favor. It could play to when you go to refinance it, rates are lower than what they were when you first did it, so.
Isn't that how like lots of people around 2008 lost houses and was
To an extent. Part of that crash was partly because they were pushing ARM loans, which are adjustable rates that adjust according to the market, so yes. And then a couple of those issues were that before the federal government stepped in and put certain restrictions into place, you kind of had, this is what they say, is that you had appraisers and bankers that were kind of in it together, and they were appraising homes for $500,000 when in reality it wouldn't work but $2,000. So when loans started defaulting and real assessments and real values come out, now you're in a loan for $500,000 for a home and it's only worth $200,000. So now you're upside down $300,000 when the loan defaults. So there's various different reasons that happen, but adjustable rates are one of those problems, is
Could
that the
that
rates got
happen,
so
like-
high.
Could that happen like with a business loan? Like, do they?
It depends on if you have a fixed rate.
Okay.
What you want to look for, what I always recommend, is looking at a fixed rate. Make sure that that rate is for the term of the loan. Okay. So balloons can be a good thing, but they can be a bad thing. Just depends on your scenario. But we do terms typically for 10 years or longer. We try to stay at that 10-year mark and down. We have different grants and different funding of options that we can get. Take SBA, for instance. When we went for our SBA loan, we had to stay at 6 years, or we have to stay at 6 years or less for any SBA loan that we do, 72 months or less. Okay, used to be 60, but they upped it to 72. There for a while during the pandemic, they went up to 84. So ever so changing, but we have funding that we can pull from, that we can fund a business and run it as long as 10 years if we need to. Okay, interest rates between 4.5% and 7.5%. For the longest time, People Incorporated operated on a 4 plus prime, or prime plus 4 scenario. We looked into this, thought long and hard about it, and we found out that there were some pretty qualified folks, individuals, coming to People Incorporated, but the reason they were coming to us is because they weren't able to get traditional lending through certain lenders because they were startup businesses. How many of y'all have went to a bank and actually talked to a bank so far about borrowing money in your startup? It's
For this business,
for any business.
I have.
It's a frightening
And I
thing.
think of People Incorporated years ago.
Okay, so you went through the business loan program?
Yes.
Okay, who'd you deal with? Do you remember?
You mean the name of the,
Yeah, the individual.
I think it was Blackburn Black. Her name was,
Diana Blackburn.
yes.
Yep.
Okay, that was before my time.
She was, it was a long time ago.
So yeah, so a lot's changed, and one of those things is that we used to have a set interest rate for most of our loans. Well, now we've rolled out a thing to where we will put you in a risk rating tool. Everybody gets judged, if you will, off of that risk rating tool, and we can go anywhere between 4.5. It goes in tiers: 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, up to 7.5. And the reason we did that is because we had some people that were coming in that were really qualified buyers that deserved a really good rate because of the credit profile. And the only reason they were coming to People Inc. is because they were a startup or an existing that just didn't have the financials yet to qualify for traditional lending. So why penalize those people, right? So, of course, the higher the interest rate comes from the higher the risk that we have to accept. Because contrary, if John Smith pays his loan back, People Inc. still has to pay the SBA back, because remember, we borrowed that money from them, okay? Any questions? I know we're going to get into some discussion about what kind of funds do People Inc. offer, those kind of things. But any questions about what I've talked about as far as what you would need when you go in to talk to a lender or anything like that? How am I on time, Sandy?
We're running along.
Okay. So, I wanted to say that if you're based around tourism, I mentioned earlier about the 9th District Development Fund. Rick Boucher started that program up in
2000 and,
You're just making it up? No.
Was it 5?
4.
It was early 2000s.
Okay. So Rick Boucher started this program up to help boost tourism in the Congressional 9th District of Virginia, okay? It's a great, great program. We've done a lot of mini projects with this program, a lot. There could be a lot of money. Now, it's a revolving loan fund account, which means that as money comes back in, money becomes available, that kind of thing. But right now, I probably shouldn't quote myself on this because I know I'm going to be held to it at some point in time. I would say there's probably upwards of probably $300,000-$400,000 in that account right now that's available to lend that hasn't already been put out there on the street. I'm guessing there. But there's many different programs that we offer. I mean, it's, you know, the SBA has its own restrictions in itself, and when we borrow money from certain institutions in order to give out, then we're up against the restrictions of when we have to pay that money back our term. So the loans would have to be kept within, make sure we can pay that back. But yeah, I mean, there's just, if you have any questions about the type of lending we offer or you know, how we could fund your business, by all means, reach out to us and let us know. Okay?
Let me ask you a quick
Okay.
question on that 9th district funding. I know in the past, that you've really kind of steered away from food type businesses. But then I was listening to what you were saying earlier about, you know, the breweries. So if there are food businesses that have an element of, I guess, entertainment or tourist attraction to them, will those qualify?
It could be. What I do to kind of give you an idea about how this goes is we kind of do a preliminary thing to see if we feel internally within a committee that we feel it's tourism based. Is it going to, it has to be something, this is the way that they've looked at it in the past. Now, this is ever so changing because tourism's constantly changing. What qualifies for tourism yesterday qualifies today and vice versa. But we look at it and say, is this something that's going to pull people into the area to help other local businesses, okay? We look at that, and then I take that before what they call a screening committee. Not only does this committee look at this as in, do we want to do this loan from a financial standpoint, but does this qualify for this program? So while I can't give a definite answer to a question like that, because like she's saying, it depends on what it would pull in. If you feel that your business offers some type of tourism draw or qualification to that program, call me up. Let's sit down and talk about it. And if not, then I may have other options. That interest rate for that tourism program right now is at 3.5%. So it's 1% lower than I can offer with most loans, right? But even if you don't qualify from a tourism standpoint, if it just don't fit the criteria, then let's get the 4.5, see if we can get you for the 4.5%, get you opened up, get the wheels turning, and then revisit that 9th district thing when we come to it to see if it qualifies. Because you may be the first brewery that moves into town. Remember I told you I did that report earlier. Now the breweries qualify for 9th District Development Financing. It's a new thing for us. It's still growing here. And you could be the very next.
If you attract one person to gather community, would that be considered tourism? I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
I see in our libraries sometimes there's like the writer signs books.
Mm-hmm.
But what if we offer in our tea room a writer traveling, you know, signing books and maybe talking about his book with people, you know, and things like that? Would that be considered traveling, or is that something else?
I think if it was going to be on a large scale, if this was one of your main marketing focuses, and you were going to do this on a regular basis, I could see how that would be subject to be looked at. If it was something of somebody coming to me and they've been open for 3 years and they say, well, I did have this writer to come in 6 months ago. That's one of them things, is this going to be a one and out kind of thing?
So
you know.
if there's an agreement with some like organization, writers and like
Mhm.
association or something, that it would be looked at.
I think it would need to be
Okay.
looked at, yeah. Because that bringing in those riders and stuff like that could very well bring somebody from outside into
Yes.
your business, which brings them to other areas, which is gonna
Yeah,
support you
people
if they
maybe
wanna get
would-
their hair done,
Maybe
right?
people would
Well,
travel
my
to
hair.
get that signature.
Do what?
I'm a retailer.
Well,
I'll sell
buy it.
hair.
Maybe I need to talk to you, you know?
No, I'll sell your clippers to you. I'll sell you whatever.
Did that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay,
thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Great
Sandy.
job.
Thank you.
We are running short on time, but I think technology and cybersecurity is really important. Sorry, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. So I want to start Jonathan Evans' presentation talking about technology. If something
Hey, I'm Jonathan Evenden with Aegis IT. We provide quality IT consulting and business solutions founded on personal character and integrity. We will be in business for 10 years in May, which is super exciting. When I started the company, I really didn't have any contacts or any work. And here we are with a handful of employees and continuing to grow. So this has taken a significant amount of time and effort to get to this point, but I am extremely thankful for how well we've done and for all of our great clients that we work with. So in terms of my background, I have been in business for 10 years. I've been in IT consulting for about 16 years, 17 years, and I've been getting paid to fix computers since about the mid-90s. So I started when I was reasonably young and really enjoy computers. It is something that is a hobby and a passion that has turned into a full-time job. But not only that, a full-time business that has multiple employees. So this is something I get very excited about and I really enjoy. And that is probably one of the best things that has happened in terms of being able to start the business. It's something that I'm very passionate about. It's something I get very excited to do because there's a lot of work and a lot of time that goes into it. And if it was something that I didn't enjoy and I wasn't passionate about, I don't know that I'd be as motivated as I am now, especially for the business that I work in. So today I wanted to cover a couple of bullet points about items that are pertinent to new businesses and especially from the IT side. I'm going to talk briefly about email, websites, phones, computers/servers, line of business software, cybersecurity issues, and briefly on social media. The idea is that every single one of these are major points that new businesses need to take into consideration. And as we have been working with new businesses for the past 10 years, we've seen all of these handled differently. And there are significant implications to how you set things up and how you move forward with your business. So this is just going to be a quick 1 to 2 minutes per topic. And we're always available and happy to talk about these items at length. And there are other resources that we've put out, such as some other presentations, material on our website, and some other videos, as well as in person or a phone call to go into more detail on these items. So let's talk about your email. Email is one of the major communication methods between businesses and other businesses or businesses and individuals. It's something that is frequently first point of contact. We get a lot of people contacting us by email first. Maybe they found us on the website. Maybe they found us on social media. Maybe they got referred to us by a friend, and then they send us an email. So your email is something that is a quick representation of your company. And when it comes to startups, it's entirely common for the owner to use their personal email, whether it's a gmail.com or a Yahoo or a Hotmail, or I've seen instances of AOL still floating around there. And we strongly recommend, even with the new business, spending the $12 a year and buying your own branded domain. So this might be yourcompany.com, yourcompany.net. Most people start with stick with .com. There's .biz, and there's plenty of options out there if your company name is taken. My company is Aegis IT. We had to register thinkaegis.com because Aegis is a common enough name such that aegis.com was taken, aegisit.com was taken. And so we put in a call to action for our domain. And I'm pretty happy with it 10 years later. But what you get from that is you get the option to have a branded email And so it just looks more professional. So instead of having bob25@hotmail.com as your company email, have your branded email. It's going to look significantly better and more presentable to clients. Same thing with a website. Websites are a bit more involved. Well, an email will take simply a domain and possibly using Gmail or Office 365, and you can get those for a couple dollars a month, basically. For business email, website can be significantly more. If you were to get a professional looking website, you could easily spend thousands and it can go up from there. So when you're talking about a website for a startup, that could be a pretty daunting task, especially when you start getting quotes from just the more professional marketing or professional website companies. So easy resources might be starting with, say, Wix, which I don't like long term, but it's a great opportunity to get started quickly. There are some other options out there that allow you to do basically a builder website where either it's a quick template, you can get a WordPress template for free. There's plenty of free WordPress templates that look great out there. And you don't have to spend a huge amount of money to get your website up and running. In fact, one suggestion that we would make is get a simple website, make it look professional. Sometimes even a single page landing page will be good enough. Have your contact information, have a phone number and some basics about what you do and what services or products you offer. And that way you're not spending a huge amount of money to get up and running and then budget some money for a more professional looking website later on down the road. Websites are great because people still heavily use the websites to find you. SEO is a big deal, being on Google Maps, being on, I hate Yelp, but people will still refer to it. It's still a source of traffic for certain industries. And if you don't have a good looking website, you will be setting yourself back, especially in regards to when you're a startup. So another important factor would be phones. We see, especially with startups, people use their personal cell phone because they're already paying for it, and that becomes an easy to manage expense. That's okay. It doesn't scale well, so as you grow, you're not going to want to give out your cell phone. I personally give out my cell phone, but we're in a break fix industry, and so we want people to call us and be able to reach us as there's problems. As we get larger and larger, I will be pushing more towards using a help desk number or a support number or as a way to be able to centralize tickets rather than calling cell phones. But for now, it works. And so an important question for your business phones would be, how do you want to handle your business phone? Do you want to just run your business off your cell phone, which long term is not great, especially if it's your personal phone? Do you want to get a traditional phone system from, say, your internet provider, Spectrum, Comcast, Bright Ridge, whoever you're getting your internet from, they will sell you a traditional phone line. The issue with that is now you've got a fixed piece of equipment in your office that won't work anywhere else, such that if you set up in a phone system from one of those providers, you have to be in the office unless you're call forwarding after hours. Now you're paying for what's essentially an older phone platform and a PBX that sits in your office. We sell a significant amount of voice over IP these days. That is software that runs on a phone server elsewhere. So really all you need is internet. I can install the software on my cell phone. I can install it on my iPad, my computer. In fact, my assistant works remotely. She has the software on her laptop. She has a headset and she logs in and makes phone calls and it shows up as my company name and my company number when she makes calls. And it's great. I can log in on my cell phone and we all share essentially the same software, even if we're not physically in the same location. And we can also attach desk phones to that. It's a wonderful direction. It allows for mobility. It allows for people to easily work from home. And it's really the direction that people are going. So that's something that doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Our a voice over IP line typically starts about 20, 25 bucks. You can find them for even less than that. I wouldn't necessarily recommend paying less than that, given the kind of problems that you'll have with the vendor, but it does not have to be an expensive way to get started, especially if you just need a single phone line for your business. So let's talk about computers and servers. We get this question a lot. I get questions such as, why can't I just go to Walmart or Best Buy and buy a $300 computer and use that for my business? Or why can't I run my business software off of a $400 computer from Walmart? Question is because, or the answer is it's not going to be very good. It does not have the hardware, it doesn't have the performance, it's not designed for the type of work that you're trying to do. And so that will die pretty quickly. It might not even die, it just is not going to hold up very well. For example, one client that we were at, they have a line of business software that's running on about 5 other computers in their office. And the computer that it's running on is still running Windows 7. It's about an 11-year-old computer. And when I say computer, it's a desktop. And it doesn't have enough RAM, and it doesn't have enough processing, and things are running slowly in their office. And for a startup, the cost of a computer can be pretty expensive, especially if you're buying a full-fledged server. In their particular case, if they were to upgrade and use another workstation, the hardware would be somewhere in the $800 to $900 range plus service time, versus a full-fledged server, which would be anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 for what they needed. In their case, they really need a server because they have other compliance issues that they have to deal with, and I'm not going to go into those details because I don't want to expose anybody. But they have compliance issues that means they really should be spending that money on that hardware and that software and that upgrade. So whether they do or not, I don't know. We simply recommend. We can't and won't force anybody to do anything. But my recommendation to them is spend the money and get the infrastructure that lets them provide the compliance and the management that they. However, when you're doing a startup, that could be a pretty decent amount of money. Whether it's something that you need right away or something that you need later. It's not uncommon for us to see startups that will start using a basic computer for a server and then transition later on. But that certainly needs to be something that factored in, depending on what kind of line of business software you need and what kind of compute power you need for running your office. So number 5, line of business software. This can be something specific to your industry. For example, we support a number of dentists, and now we're on our 3rd different dental package that we're supporting. One of our clients switched dental vendors, and so now we're able to support a 3rd different dental package. Do you have a specific line of business software? Do you have manufacturing software? Do you have point of sale software? If you're selling brick and mortar versus online, do you have something to manage all your inventory? Do you have something to manage your sales? QuickBooks is probably one of the biggest pieces of software that we support. Almost all of our clients across all of our industries run QuickBooks for their business, whether it's their accountant or them in-house. So QuickBooks is a huge line of business software that we support. And that can be somewhat challenging to set up to make sure that if you need multiple people in it at the same time, or if you need, say, your accountant to access it remotely, that all factors into how we set it up and how we make it work. So it's not uncommon for the line of business software requirements to drive what kind of computers we purchase and what kind of servers we purchase. And so, for example, with our dental clients, the line of business software actually has higher requirements than what we would typically purchase. And so we have to buy better computers for our dental offices to meet the minimum hardware requirements for that dental software. Whether that's overkill or not, doesn't matter. That's what that vendor wants. And so we buy what that vendor wants. And in that case, that line of business software is what's dictating and driving that hardware purchase. Number 6, cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is a increasingly important topic. And the common question that we get is, why would anyone be interested in us? We have a small network, we have a small data set, we hardly have anything that would be of interest. And the answer is, you have fast internet, probably. You have a computer that can send out lots of emails and lots of scams. And so your data is valuable, your hardware and your bandwidth is valuable. You might have sensitive information, employee information, identity theft, medical theft is actually a big deal. Depending on your industry, maybe you've got a bunch of credit cards from clients and customers. So even something that's a startup or even something that's small, cybersecurity is a pretty big deal. And so we have software that helps with preventing ransomware. We have software that allows us to manage and scan networks. There's questions of, do you need to remotely access your network? That plays into cybersecurity. We have been changing how we handle remote access for our clients because of a response to the increase in cybersecurity. There are certain methods of remote access that I'm in the process of discontinuing for clients simply because it's no longer as secure as it has been in the past. And there are certain attacks that are targeting particular types of remote access that we want to shut off because of ongoing problems. And so we have changed how we're handling client remote access in light of cybersecurity attacks. Additionally, things like cybersecurity insurance is a huge deal. Not all cybersecurity insurance is the same. Not all cybersecurity insurance vendors are the same. Not all policies are the same. And we have resources that we recommend for how to properly handle and how to better handle cybersecurity insurance. And along with those insurance policies comes extensive questionnaires about your network. And that's also something that we help companies deal with in terms of answering that and helping them get into maximum compliance for those policies. And finally, social media. Social media exists. Hopefully you are familiar and aware that it exists. Different demographics will be on different platforms at this point. Facebook versus Instagram versus Pinterest. Even Reddit is a huge online social media platform. And so with a startup, that can be a significant boost of new customers, depending on what type of business you're in. Getting your friends and your family to help you get the business started can be extremely helpful. Just know that it exists. You'll want to do your research to figure out what the best platform is to spend your time and effort marketing on. Whether it's worth spending money on, I've seen the numbers. I personally don't spend any money on social media, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work for other people. Just make sure that you're getting your results and that you have something to show for it at the end of the day. So those are the quick little bullet points that we had discussed in advance. Let's see if I can share. Let's share this. And typically what we say is, if you have any questions, this is my email, website, LinkedIn, phone number. We spend a significant amount of time replying to people. We love questions, especially when it comes to startups. We help a lot of startups, and I've been a startup myself. Thank you.
Okay, quickly, running short on time. Who's Virginia Community Capital? Well, we are a community development financial institution. Started, it's hard to believe, but we've been in almost 15 years, over 15 years. And actually it was started by, at the time, Governor Mark Warner, who felt like there needed to be a source of capital for small businesses and communities in Virginia. And that helped us get a $15 million investment to create Virginia Community Capital. We focus on impact, lending, and also on investment. With that $15 million, we've been able to generate over $1.86 billion in impact in Virginia as a result of that fund and that investment. And again, we look at small businesses, getting loans out to small businesses, helping to create jobs. We also focus a lot on revitalizing communities. I always use St. Paul as an example. If you've not been to St. Paul in the last, I'm going to say 5 years at least, but if you were there 20 years ago, you would see a big difference in the town of St. Paul. And talking about a community that's changed tremendously and fought back, and now they have a thriving economy downtown when before it was all boarded up buildings that were about ready to be torn down. There's a big impact there, and it's becoming a big tourism community. We focus on, for lending programs, we do for our small business, which is Cindy Snyder Green is our small business lender. We do everything from debt refinancing to small, for equipment purchases. We do working capital. We also, if you own a building and you're doing some upgrades, we do some tenant improvements. But we also are an SBA lender, and we have a variety of programs on that we can help you. And Cindy can help you with that. I want to share with you too some programs that makes Virginia Community Capital different. You know, it's hard to believe that in Virginia there are food deserts where people do not have access to fresh foods, that be meat, produce, and what we're doing is we're helping to put some money out there, but also provide some technical services. And I've got some flyers on both of our programs that I can give you, but it's helping people get into communities. It could be that it's a small, in some of our more remote areas, it could be a convenience store. It's in a rural area that they don't have access to fresh foods, but maybe if we could help them, maybe put in a cooler, they can add fresh meats and also produce on their as an option. We can offer that kind of assistance. Lauren DeSomont is an excellent person, and she's been doing this for a long time, and she's our contact for that type of program, but she'd be happy to help you. And then we also do solar energy financing. If you, we have a variety of financing options on that. And we also have a program for economic equity for women and minority-owned businesses that we can do some financing for. If you've been in business, I'm sorry, we don't do startup, but if you've been in a business for 18 months or more, we can provide some financing on that. Sorry. We also do real estate lending. Could be affordable housing, could be multi-tenant facilities, especially if maybe you're going to invest in a building and it can have multiple use. It could have maybe an apartment on top, but then you have retail on the bottom floor. We can do some financing for that. And of course, we do a lot of commercial real estate development in that division. The other thing that we do a lot of is training, just like today, is going out and helping businesses. It's one thing to help you to get started, but you know, as a professional, we all grow as we learn. And we've been doing a lot of workshops. For example, we do a new knowledge program that we had a workshop on Wednesday that we've been doing since 2014 when we started the Washington County Business Challenge. That's to help the competitors increase their knowledge and their skills. We do every other Wednesday at noon. We call it Noon Knowledge. We do a workshop. We haven't done it live since COVID hit, but we've been doing it online. But we also have archived those and been recording those. So there's actually about 170 workshops available on demand. All you have to do is go to youtube.com/hit Noon Knowledge, and you have access to everything from, right now we're in a QuickBooks hands-on series that Danny Rubel with Speed Evans is doing, and every other week he's doing a session on different aspects of QuickBooks to help you. This week was on invoicing, creating that, sending out to get payments. But also Virginia Community Capital hosts a number of workshops throughout Virginia, and we also record those, and you can see that link there, and you can go to our website and access those. But basically what we're doing is we're providing content to help entrepreneurs, both startup and existing in Virginia, grow and expand. And that's pretty big. Some other resources that you may not know of. There is an agency called Department of Housing and Community Development that offers a number of programs to help not only businesses but communities grow. They manage the enterprise zones programs in Virginia. All of these have either some type of financing and resources or technical assistance that's available to you. But it's a great organization. If you're not familiar with it, just go to dhcd.virginia.gov and look at all the programs that they offer in Virginia.
I've been working with them as I'm trying to start up a nonprofit, so
Great.
very, very useful.
Great. They do a lot in Virginia. A lot. Also, the Virginia Department of Agriculture has a lot of programs. If you're growing something, producing meats or vegetables in Virginia, they have a number of programs that can help you. I encourage you to go to vdax.virginia.gov and look at the resources that they have available. And actually, we're partnering with them on the food access program right now. So if, again, that's something you want to look at. Of course, SBA.gov, if you've never gone to the Small Business Administration, talking about a honey hole of information, you should go there, from everything about sample business plans, sample pro forma statements, talking about all the resources that they have available. And that information changes a lot because they're bringing, as new money comes in, they're making advances. Another thing that we used to work with a lot was score.org. They unfortunately do not have an office anymore in Bristol and this part of Virginia, but there's still a lot of resources. For example, if you're starting a new type of business, you're talking about a hair salon or hair products, you can go there and probably find a mentor at no cost that can help you walk through that process of how do I start and my business, some things to look out for. I know a friend of ours that used to do this program with us had a hot dog stand, and he wanted to expand that, and he decided he wanted to do it through franchising. And he called SBA, contacted on their website, found a mentor that had actually helped Taco Bell and some other, and helped within a half an hour on the phone. He was able to figure out how to franchise his business, and then he did sell a franchise, and then the franchisee ended up buying his business from him. So it does work, but there's lots of resources available on the SBA.gov. Accessing new markets as you start your business. As I mentioned earlier, while we're talking, we spend a lot of time on marketing. Is how important it is. You always have to be looking for that pipeline of customers. And one of the things that can help you, I just realized I hadn't done something, is looking at new markets. And has anybody ever thought about selling to the state of Virginia? Talking about an $8 billion market, that's every state agency that in Virginia has to buy through this system called EVA, Virginia's Marketplace. You can go there and find, it's eva.virginia.gov. There's over 245 agencies, over 900 plus localities on there, and nearly 10,000 vendors. And you can go there and sign your business up to be a vendor for Virginia, and you can get bids. I had a lady that I've worked with for a number of years who moved to Bristol and decided she wanted to do something, but she wasn't sure what she wanted to get into. And we started talking about Virginia's procurement system. And that stuck on her, and she decided to become a vendor for Virginia, and she just basically gets on there, bids for products. She doesn't have any inventory. This is in the basement of her house. And she's selling to the Commonwealth. And I think the last 2 years when I looked up her sales to Virginia, she was doing almost $2 million a year selling to the Commonwealth. It was over $1 million. On there, you can actually find, you're talking about new markets, not only selling to the Commonwealth, all of those vendors that sell to Virginia, why can't you sell to them? You can actually run a spin report on the products that you sell. You can then find out every business that sold something to the Commonwealth on that purchase, that code. And you can run a report, and it'll tell you who the company is, their address, phone number, in some cases the email addresses, and you will know there's you a contact list that you can sell to. It could be for, I tell folks, they think, well, I can't do that. I said, well, you have professional service. Maybe you're a architect, and Virginia's doing a project in, I'll just say Big Stone Gap. Well, it's cheaper probably to hire an engineer here in Southwest Virginia than to pay an architect all their travel from Southwest Virginia, or from Richmond to Big Stone Gap, and put them up in a hotel to do that work. Why can't you subcontract out to whoever won the contract in Virginia? Same way with a caterer. You might be a caterer, but you don't want to do work in Virginia Beach, but maybe somebody in Virginia Beach got that contract for whatever reason. It could be an agency that has multiple offices. They can call you and subcontract to you, and you do that job. the possibilities are unlimited of what you can do on that program. You can actually put in your commodity code when you develop that. That's basically how they ID you. And you can run a report and you can find every agency that procured that product or service over the past, I'll say, a year. And there's your report to know, okay, I see I really need to reach out to Virginia Tourism Corporation. They buy a lot of bling, as we call it, promotional items. I might want to do something with them. And two, you should also, if you are a small and or a woman, a minority-owned business, small and or woman-owned business, you can get SWAM certified. There's a special set aside of all the purchasing has to go to a SWAM certified vendor. So you may have somebody that's a great company and can they may offer their pricing a little bit less, but you're a SWAM because I'm a procurement person in that agency and I have to procure that amount percentage. You may win the bid. So there's opportunities unlimited there. And you can also, as you get ready to start your business, I get happy about this. The numbers things is okay, but when I can help people access new markets, that's where I get excited about. You can actually run a spin report of every business that sold something to the Commonwealth in, let's say, 20-mile radius, or all of Bristol, Abbey, Washington County, Scott County, your contiguous counties, and see who procured something over the past year. You would have every vendor that sells to the Commonwealth in that. So there's your new database of targets. And you know what that costs you? Zilcho. It's all public information. It's right on that Virginia Electronic Procurement System, the eva.virginia.gov. So if you want to get into that, let me know and I'll be happy to share that with you. Also, another resource that can help you accessing not only state procurement, but also federal procurement. There's a whole nother ring that you can access. The Procurement Technical Assistance Center, that's also, I think they're part of the SBA program, aren't they? They're housed out of, this one that serves our region is out of the Southwest Community College in Claypool Hill. But I put their contact information up there that you can contact them and schedule an appointment to do something either online or in person, and they can help you access that. Other things that can help you, Department of Taxation, as you start that business, Cindy's going to tell you, did you get a tax ID number? You need to contact the Virginia Department of Taxation to do that. If you start hiring employees, which is always the fun, and when the hire starts coming out, you'll have to register. You'll have to get on Virginia's Employment Commission because I think it's at 3 or more employees you have to sign up for unemployment insurance, and you need to have that. Also, if you're growing something or food-based or different options that they have, Virginia Extension Service is another resource that a lot of people don't even think about when they're looking at starting a business or growing it. Depending on the type of business that you are going into, you also have to have a professional occupational license in Virginia. As a hairstylist, you have to have a license. If you are an insurance broker, you have to have a license. If you're a contractor, you have to have a license. You'll have to go to dpor.virginia.gov and get registered. I will give you a tidbit that I've used this for, is looking up, if I'm wanting to hire a contractor, I look them up to see, A, is their license up to date, and B, if there's been any complaints or anything filed before I will do business with them. And it doesn't cost me a dime. It's all a resource there for you to access. That was fast, but thank you all for joining us today for my big day. But I'm here to help you. I'm just tickled to death to be back on the road, but also be with my partners. It's been a long, I guess, quiet and lonely time, so it's nice to be out with everybody. But I hope that you realize today's workshop that there are so many resources available to new and existing businesses in Virginia. And all you have to do is now you have the team. You should have a list of all the presenters today, their contact information. We're only doing this to help you because when you're successful, we're successful. It's kind of fun to drive down a town and Main Street and say, oh yeah, I remember them. They came and they did the business challenge in Tazewell a couple of years ago. And, you know, they took advantage of the resources just like what we are doing today. So, do you have any questions for any of us?
I'm probably gonna have a lot of questions, so.
Oh, I screen my
like-
phone, my phone calls.
My head is spinning right now.
Well, let's put it this
Yeah,
way.
yeah, I
Was there
did-
anything that was not discussed or that you still have a question about?
No, there's a lot of things that I like. I heard some, like, you know, Cindy spoke quite a bit, but like some things are just like getting in and like flying out, and like repetition is a good thing, you know. Yeah. So all those numbers and those things I need to go through, and I think we all need to go through, you know, to.
Well, again, I'll send the presentation, but I just lost my train of thought. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
I understand.
There's so much resources, but I think the primary thing, if I could give anybody in here any advice, is to do that business plan and start working on that before you even go, because you have to know, as Jeremy said, you know, if you don't go in there armed, you know, and dangerous, nobody's going to talk to you or give you the time of day, and you can't go seeking financing. I know for Virginia Community Capital, you've got to have a business plan, and you've got to have a couple of years that we can look and see what your activity's been. And, you know, if you're going to go seek financing, you better get your credit in line before you go seeking financing, because that'll be everybody does that. That's a red flag. Yes.
I have a question. That's
Okay.
what I was thinking, that I flew away now.
Okay.
Let's say, like on my business plan, there's a budget for everything, and like I find a place and it needs like substantial remodeling. Can I apply based on my business, sort of like come to you and seek for financing just specifically for remodeling this space the way I need it?
But have you got, you know how much it's gonna cost? Have you talked to a contractor? I mean, Jeremy can tell you too, you know.
This is hypothetical, like basically, like yes, if I hire a contractor
To
and
give you an
he-
estimate.
can I come with those? So it's not falling into the budget of other financial stuff.
What the worst
Could it
thing
be
you can do is you could go to Jeremy and say, I need a construction loan, and he'll say, well, how much is it gonna cost? And you have a breakdown and you don't have anything, you know, you're not gonna be able to move forward. But that's part of that business plan. You're gonna have everything written down or have an idea. And then now you know how much it's gonna cost. So how much money am I putting in, and how much money are you gonna need? Because you gotta think about it. Nobody's gonna give you 100% financing. So most of the time, what, 80%, Jeremy?
Roughly, yeah, it depends on your project.
Okay.
And like when you were talking about can your business plan change? That's exactly what Cindy was talking about, is what fits today may not fit tomorrow. Your business plan wouldn't only change with the expense of borrowing that money, but what is that gonna add to your top line? If you're adding on additional space because you need additional, counter space to serve more people, well then that's gonna affect your business plan altogether. And I guess to answer your question is, along with what Sandy's saying, is yes, that's not uncommon. That's business ever so changing. If your business stayed the same constantly, you're probably gonna start worrying. You know, change is inevitable, except in a vending machine.
Yeah, and a business plan is a fluid document, because as you get halfway into this and you may I want to add this product, or I need to add this service to it, which is going to change your numbers, but it's showing that you're diversifying, but be careful not to get into too much and you can't control it all.
I think you'll see more change in your business after you start up. You'll see more change in year one than you see stability, by far. Because you just don't, I mean, let's be honest, and Cindy will tell you, unless you use the SBDC and the resources they have, and even so sometimes at that, depending upon the market, it's like putting numbers up on a wall and standing back with a blindfold throwing darts. You really don't know, but you need the best approach and the best information you can get to start that process. You don't wanna go into it completely unknowledge. So it's ever gonna change, and we understand that, it's a given.
And we're human, and there's probably something that we missed, but that's why if you would take a moment of your time and complete that survey, that helps us, you know, we're professionals, we wanna do better, but we also wanna make sure we're hitting you with everything that you need. There is some, flyers up here, if you need anything, you've got our contact information, so really, the next is up to you. Cindy, did you have something you were gonna?
Nope, you just took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.